bring to you the Everything Is podcast, where we talk about everything that matters. I am your host, Chitty Bang. I'm here with my tag team partner, Chris the Most High, joint ruler Ayatollah himself. Yeah, today we're coming to you as just Chidi and Chris a little bit. We just gonna be man to man having a conversation because, if you caught yesterday's topics, me and Chris, we discussed re- the reckless Ben situation, right? And I
Yep,
think
breakfast.
that, yeah, yeah, and I think that it definitely got a little heated, and I think that me and you had different, I guess, perspectives and ethoses on how we want to approach it, and me and you got to talking after the podcast, right? And we got into a more firm understanding of one another and where each other come from. And you proposed that we should just come here today and just chop it up on that. And you spoke to me about your life and things that you've gone through. And I've also admitted that I have had I've had also I've also had different programming in my life to make me who I am today. And today we're gonna talk about it. Today's everything is programming because let's be real. No matter who you are, no matter where you are, there's some level of programming that's done that's unavoidable in how you look at the world. You know, Chris was talking to me about the glasses situation, about how I might have these rose-colored glasses, right? And he might got the dark shades on, and I might be like, "Yo, just try my shades on for a second, here you go, take it." And then he's like, "Nah, nah, these dark shades is here for a reason. Like this is," and I said to him like, "Yo, I get it. Programming sometimes is meant to protect us, put us in a position where the way we look at the world is meant to protect us from, the way we see, the way we, interpret the world, and I think today's a good conversation to have that. Let's talk about our program. Let's talk about our preconceived notions, and where we come from as a perspective, as a approach to life, and why we do that.
That word right there, preconceived those words right there, preconceived notions,
Yeah,
uh, kind of really encapsulate, I guess, society realistically. You know what I'm
exactly.
saying? Because if we're being completely honest with ourselves, um, if we're being completely honest with ourselves, those preconceived notions kind of is the makeup to the programming. You know what I'm
Uh-huh.
saying? And to our conversation yesterday about the reckless Ben conversation, and for anybody who, like myself, who was ignorant to the whole, reckless Ben conversation, my brother bringing it up was very validated. You know what I'm saying? Like it was necessary because at the end we captured something. Not only at the end of the podcast, but at the end of the podcast that you saw, but at the end of the podcast that you didn't see, where we really just let me just say this: I knew myself in the story. It wasn't my topic. It was Chidi's topic, and when he asked me my opinion, I knew my opinion would be um, opposed to the messaging that Chidi wanted to get out. And we've had conversations as far as pre-pro go, when we're just conversing as co-hosts, and he's like, "Hey man, sometimes I really feel like you step on or you undermine my points, because if it's I'm not always talking to you. We have an audience that we're building to, so I'm talking to the audience, and sometimes when you dismiss it, or you're like, hey, whatever, or in this case, my preconceived notion of like, oh, white boy got some white privilege to do some shit like that. That in itself was an undermining to the message. And for again, for anybody who didn't see the pod, Chidi, I don't know if you can. It wasn't a script. I don't want you to go verbatim,
Mhm.
but can you give the people again what it is that you were really trying to land on when we were speaking about finding good people in the world and building on that?
Yeah. It's I guess I guess it's twofold because one, it's about corruption. If you guys didn't see the podcast, this guy Reckless Ben has been on a journey these past 2 weeks to reclaim the collection of a gentleman's father's Lego collection, and he does some I wouldn't say journalism, but investigative stuff on his YouTube channel, and he has exposed certain, companies and stuff like that. If you go see, he has 1.3 million subscribers. So it's not like I knew this guy prior to the story. I just heard it through my nephew, and I brought it to this podcast because it's an interesting story, and it might be going viral, and people have their own videos on it. So I was like, it's just another example of the corruption. Because if you watch the videos that he put out over the past couple of days, it started with him approaching the company and saying, "Hey, can we get the inventory? If you guys are not going to, give him the money for, can we get the inventory back?" And the son had already been told that they're not going to give it back, and that if he tried to sue, they're going to drag it out in court. So he should just lose the father's inventory. Now the father is sick. He doesn't even know all this is going on. He doesn't want to bring it to his father because essentially, he doesn't want to stress him out while he's sick. So what the son did, he brought to Reckless Ben. Reckless Ben tried to get it, and it caused a stir. Instead of them helping and sorting this thing out, the store closed down, and the CEO of Bricks and Minifigs, I think it's called, just shut the store down. So now the inventory, we don't know where the inventory is. At least that's what happened a couple weeks ago. And the owner of that specific location was now responsible, because since he can't sue that store, he now is going to sue that specific owner. So then he was in conversation with that specific owner over a couple of weeks, and he's like, "We're going to serve you papers because you're not willing to work with us and finding and getting this inventory back or giving him reimbursement for the money." And the guy said, "Well, I'm not leaving my house." So Ben goes to his house to, serve him papers, and essentially the cops are there, and they essentially arrest Ben, even though he has a server that's not involved in the situation, a woman to serve the papers. The guy just wouldn't accept it. The cops got the papers, brought it to the guy. The guy said he won't accept it. All the cops have to do is say, "You're served. Here's a paper." The cops then say, the guy said it was fake. So the cops then go and call the court and say, "Hey, is this real?" And they say, "Yeah, this is real. This is an official paper that should be served." And instead of saying, "Hey, you're served. These are real papers," they arrest Ben, the guy who is helping out the gentleman and his father to retrieve the toys. And I only bring this all up to show you that this is all white people involved, first and foremost. These are white men, white cops, a white owner, white kid trying to help out a white family with the Legos, right? And he got arrested for nothing. There's a lot of lies about him saying that he was going to stalk this person or commit murder the staff, murder him, all these just lies about him. And if you watch the body cam footage, they're saying that you can't just let this kid go. You gotta hide. The owner is on the phone. The CEO's on the phone with the owner talking to the cops, and the cops are like, "Let's see if we can find up some charges to put on this kid." They're literally talking even though they know the court documents are real. Their priority is not to say, "Hey man, you're served these papers." The priority is to protect the man who stole the inventory and to protect the corporation that stole the inventory. So one of my takes was on it. It's like, man, this is corruption right in front of our face, blatantly, right? And we want to expose it, bring it to the light, and talk about it on our pod, because it just shows that it just doesn't happen to us Black people when it comes to unlawful imprisonment, unlawful, just the cops working together to find out anything to stop something. And then it's twofold, because I didn't want to ignore Chris's concerns as far as it comes to the dismissiveness of it, because this white kid's using his privilege, because that's a real sentiment that us Black people might have when we see a situation like this. And I want to get to a broader point of, but there's still good people with good intentions trying to expose this stuff, and that the future lies in us finding good people who are not just of our skin tone and color or whatever it may be, and bringing those people to life and giving them the credit they deserve, and hoping that one day when we do have a sharing of the minds, that we can pass through the propaganda and programming of this division based off of race to basically say wrong is wrong, right is right, and um, have the even if it's not empathy or sympathy, maybe it's just logic of, yeah, this shouldn't happen, and we're gonna call it out. Even if this person doesn't really see me all the way, and does that, is that a requirement to have the amount of sympathy and empathy? Is to say, oh, do you see my struggle? All right, then I'll be on your side. Or is it just like, I want to be the change I want to see in the world? Of like, I will see struggles in people regardless of whatever they're doing. And that's where I was coming from. Is like, I'm trying to be the change I want to see in the world, and if something is wrong, I'm gonna speak truth to power and try to give it its just due. you know. But there is a level of acknowledgement that goes to the apathy and the anger when it comes to seeing, a white kid get arrested for a Lego dispute. And then we just talked about, our people, being killed unlawfully and losing their life. So I want to
Well,
just
I think too. Yes, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but what I wanted, and I wanted to add on from my personal kind of vantage point, just to add to what you were just saying. What I really do want to acknowledge as he says this about, and this was somewhere I didn't want to go in the moment of the conversation, because we were, and we yelled it, right. He was like, no, I just want to acknowledge him doing good. And then my rebuttal, I think, after the pod, and we're about to say here, is, do we know he's doing good for, and I'm like, good is good, to your point. This is good. I ask, is it good for the sake of being good, or good for the sake of content? And for me, one of the biggest things now, we're using the word grifters, right? We're using the word altruistic, right? Like, those are two opposites, right? Because to do something without the want or the thought or the need or the feel or the ego or the whatever to receive anything back is the good people that I believe can benefit this next stage of the revolution that we're calling for. I think, as we speak about our good man Stephen A., there are people who will be grifters in this time frame and fence sit whenever the wind blows and sees fit, kind of. And then that determines which side of the fence that they actually sit upon. So when I was asking about Reckless Ben, because we ended up doing it, when you said, look at his page, I don't know everything he did. And I said, okay, I'm gonna look at it. And we did it together in real time. He's like, no, look at the video that says white supremacy. I said, okay, we're gonna look at it. We opened up that video. It was like, not the tone.
not to tell.
You know what I mean? It's not. And for me to allow myself to give someone a chance to help me, because now this is a real, like, pride thing. When I speak on behalf of Chris, when we're talking, to receive help or ask for help or to be a beneficiary of help, those are three different things. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes they can all be of the same lineage, right? I ask for help, I receive help, I'm a recipient, I'm a beneficiary of help. Or sometimes that's a trickle down effect of something else, right? And for me, I'm a beneficiary, as we all are, from the Civil Rights Act, right? That I am a beneficiary of that. Did I ask for that help? No. You know what I'm saying? When I grew up where I was, depending on you, did I necessarily need that? As we talk about the evolution of where people were, and I was born in '89. By that time, a lot of people would say, "I don't see color. I don't see racism." I know 30 years prior to that, niggas saw color, niggas saw racism. So between
During
that
that
30
time,
years,
they saw
during
color.
that, absolutely,
They saw
absolutely,
racism. So let's stop it. Like
absolutely.
that whole phrase. I think that you know it's
That's a
a.
trigger.
I think that it is a
It's a
trigger,
trigger.
especially as you continue to grow in your journey. Because Martin Luther King, when he says his speech, or the high averaging speech of, he, sees one day when it doesn't matter what color you are. I forget. I'm gonna misquote it if I tried,
It'll be
but
the I think I have a dream. Where men and women are judged by not by the color of their skin, but by the
content
content
of
of
the
their
color,
character. I have
right?
a dream today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so when they say I don't see color, I think that's what they're trying to get at. But there comes a level of uh, disregard when you say that you then don't realize. It's almost like saying to a woman who's been abused, "Oh yeah, just get over it now. Now you're not being abused. Like just get over it. Like
Yeah, you with me.
you're with me now.
You with
It's
me.
good." But not realizing that, but there's still work to be done as far as getting over the trauma. And there's work to be done as far as, I lost all my freaking, financial stability. I now have to build that back up, and nobody's there to help me with it. I didn't get no, he stole my car. He stole everything from me, and you beat me, stole my stuff, took my home, took my car, took my money, and now I'm starting from zero. And you're like, yeah, well, you're not there anymore, right? You're good. It's like, yeah, but I'm still pissed the fuck off that now I'm starting from zero. And that's a reality I gotta live with every single day. And do you see that? Do you see that in my journey? Because if you don't, you're not going to quite understand why there's a anger. You're not going to understand why there's a need to actively fix systemic racism, actively fix systemic issues within our community, that go beyond just I'm not racist to you, and it goes, so you start to see like, all right, gerrymandering that's going on. You start to see like the redlining. You start to see the banking system and how hard it is for black businesses to get loans. The bombing in Tulsa. There's so many. The only time they bombed America bombed America, is to bomb black communities. And when you start to understand the story and lineage of it, you then start to see the person fully and completely. And we're still in that stage of, whether it be the liberal white America or whatever you want to call it, seeing the full picture of black Americans. Even me, I'm a Barney supporter. I think that he was he was there on the front lines of the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
I still think he could do some more, as far as seeing the black American struggle today and moving that forward, and that's just me as a progressive, and that's just my honest opinion. Although I do appreciate everything he's done. He's the best, honestly, out of everybody. But yeah, there's still more work to be done. I can say two things can be true. So I think when we talk about this situation with Reckless Ben, that systemic trauma that you've gone through, plus you come on, you grew up in Alabama, bro. You are first hand in a community where there was significant segregation, and
Yeah.
even as you grew up, there's still segregation now to some degree. So it's not as bad as it used to be, but still, there's still like the remnants of this. These people were part of the Confederate. Let's be real, and
Yeah, and that's real. Like that is like the what you're speaking of too, and I think what reignited this was, the Jameis Winston response of the Jackson Dart situation,
yeah,
right? When Jameis Winston gives that, because me and JMO legit same age. A little, I think I might be older. I think I might be older than him like a year or two.
mhm,
But I think me and JMO might be the same age. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And
around
Jameis,
the same age, yeah, for sure.
and he's 32. Damn, yeah, I am 5 years older than him.
Okay. Wow. That's interesting.
I'm 5 years older than JMO, right? So to hear JMO say, I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, where they burnt 4 little girls.
Yeah.
That, to your point, that was a church bombing in the United States of America of a racial intent to kill. Because what, right? And then now that's 1964. Don't don't get close. 1965. Well, don't quote me on that. But we just gonna fast forward to, like I just said, where it was really I see color and I hate you and I don't see color. To now you trying to tell me that we don't see color, but you got somebody walking into a church just about close to 10 years ago and letting off when people praise. That's under the First Amendment, right? Ain't that right? Right, the freedom to practice religion, if I'm not mistaken, or I might be
First part is
like
freedom of
quoting that
speech.
wrong.
First one is freedom of speech, and then
Uh,
I think it's right to bear arms
freedom,
is two.
where's
Freedom of
freedom of right?
religion is in the top five. I think it's in the Bill of Rights. It's in the top 10. You know, but
Okay. So yeah,
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like, we are in a situation of the fundamental rights of people, to the point of Martin Luther King. The content of my character. Hey, brother, you and white and this is the thing. White people be like, well, I didn't own you. I don't own you.
Yeah.
I wasn't a slave
There's a
owner.
lot
I
of people that
wasn't
will say,
that.
"Oh, you're not a slave," like as if that makes it so much better. Oh, you were never a slave, like, and I didn't do it, you know. And here's the thing, though. Even with that, I get that sentiment, like from white people. If you didn't do it, and you have to deal with the backlash from it and the judgment from a guy like you, Chris, who's like, "Yeah, fuck this little white boy." It's the same as some person who's like, all these black people are always complaining. Get over it. It's like the dismissiveness on both
Yeah,
sides is what
yeah,
I'm trying to tackle. Is what I'm trying
yeah,
to attack head for
yeah.
first. So did I know where you were going with the conversation? No, but I know you, and I know that to some degree this is not a topic that you are super like passionate about, when it comes to this kid and being arrested for no reason, but you're looking at it less, okay, yeah, he's using his white privilege for good, but like, okay, so what, yeah, whereas I
And
see
I
this
got
as
angry. And I got angry because I'm like, yo, you said we need good white people, and I'm like, you using it, and he was like, yes, good. And that's where the fight was at. The fight was like, what do you consider good? You know what I'm
but
saying? Like,
I
what do you
think that's
consider
good.
good?
I do. At the end of the day, is it good only in relation to black people that counts? And that's what I would ask you. Is it only in relation to what black causes? Is that where it counts? That's why I was like, I don't know his content. Like, to me, what I'm trying to say when I say that is I don't care about the rest of his content. I know this story, and I know that he's doing a good action for this family. And I don't want any corporation to feel like they can get ahead, just steal from people, you know? And me as a black man can see another human being and say that is fucking wrong. Just like I want white people to see another human being in Carmack Belton and say that is fucking wrong. And I know that there is people that will do that, but I can't put all of them in a box. Now, do I know Reckless Ben's opinion on Carmack Belton or if he even knows about it? No, I don't. But to me, I'm going to represent that type of person that I want to see if I was on the other side of things, Just like if a black person went into a synagogue and let off, I'm never going to be like, yeah, there's two sides to this thing. I'm gonna say this guy needs to be in jail. Fuck that dude. You know, you know.
And I do believe, and to that point, is it, to answer your question, do I care if it only is in the highlight of, benefit, again, being a beneficiary to me or
In,
my
in, in,
people?
re- in relation to black people,
In
yeah, because
relation to
in
my,
totality, we don't even know the answer to that question when it comes to Reckless Ben. Like I don't know it, you don't know it. Even with the content we've seen, we don't know, what he trusts in his heart,
that's true.
So, but I will see that. Oh, he after the first. I know you said in the. I'm sorry. Like I know that you're trying to answer the question, but I wanted to give a little bit more
Oh, go ahead, go ahead,
context
go
on the
ahead, go ahead.
question. When you said, "Is it for content or is it for or if it's for the sake of being good. He
Mhm.
could have stopped on the first documentary, and that's what I would say to the situation. He could have stopped at the first documentary, and even when they shut down the store, it could have been like, oh man, there's nothing I could do, bro. But no, he's like, no. Now we're gonna go after the guy who shut the store down. We're gonna go after the guy who we've seen in the kick out the other store owner. We're gonna target him and do even the minimal things because this family can't sue him. But guess what? I can do it, and I can also expose them on my YouTube channel to a million people, and now it's grown. So yes, I do think it's valuable for me, but I want you to answer it because no, let me start talking. I want to hear what you guys say with that. As if he doesn't do anything in relation to black causes, how do you feel about that? If does it change the way you
Well,
look at him?
well, I can only answer that question in relation to like what it did to me in real life when we did it, like
Okay.
when the
Yeah, yeah,
experiment
yeah.
that we had yesterday. So the experiment that we had yesterday was we did go look at his content and we tried to find a thread to see to kind of gauge who um Reckless Ben is. And for all intents and purposes, Reckless Ben, I don't want to cast any aspersions on you. I just want to be honest. When I made that comment of a white guy using white privilege, I will not apologize for saying that. But what I will say is that to cast aspersions on you as if you aren't a good person, I would walk that back because if that was interpreted, that's not what I wanted to come off. What I will say is to articulate myself is that as a white person who is now calling out corruption, who is now calling out, police hiding evidence. We're talking about, corporations stealing things from some people,
This is
and
a
then yourself.
gateway to what we want to talk about. It's a
It's
gateway to be
exactly.
like, hey, maybe you can look at this even further. Maybe there's more to this that to now you've experienced it. We talked a couple weeks ago. You're like, they gotta feel our pain. Well, guess what? Here's a perfect opportunity. He's feeling our pain.
Yeah.
So now here's a gateway for him to really understand what a black person goes through sometimes when they're like unrightfully arrested for something that they didn't fucking do. So that's what I saw as the broader picture, and I get where you're coming from 100%.
No, but
Yeah.
I think that matters, bro. I mean, it takes you a couple of times going to the museum, looking at the same painting to kind of really grasp what it is. So when you talk about broad strokes, right? Realistically, I'm analyzing the minutia in some aspects because I do believe that in the grand scheme of broad stroke painting this reckless Ben guy on surface is experiencing the things that we will call the white power structure, right? Like, and this is what they will argue sometimes, and I'm saying not reckless Ben, but white people was like, there is no real barrier of entry for people who want to fuck you over. It don't matter your skin color. It don't matter who. If we feel like we got authority over you, or if we feel like we got an advantage over you, if we feel like that you can't do nothing about it. Yes, but my thing is, we've never, as black people, have never looked at the white person or white um, uh, uh, Caucasian demographic and we never looked at their short end of the stick and was like, yeah, up the ass. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, to your point, our short end of the stick is, well, my Irish immigrant grandparents took another end of the stick and tied it together, had one big stick. And I'm like, yeah, every time we've got an end of a
One
stick,
second.
they broke that stick in half and broke that stick in half and broke that stick in half. So we were left with pieces. So in this story, realistically, no pun intended, with with the son being left trying to find the pieces, right? Trying to for like the real thread of you're trying to piece your life back together with pieces that were stole from you and nobody's accountable is something that, you know, when I say experience what we experience, so now when I want to see Reckless Ben's conversation, I kind of want to see if it's a grow up switch, right? Because a lot of
Okay.
people grew up, when I say socially conscious, a lot of people grew up, unfortunately, with George Floyd, right? A lot of people grew up with Trayvon Martin. A lot of people grew up with Sean Bell,
Uh,
right? So, like, we have
Shit, I
damn
had to
near
grow up with all those situations. You know, the first one
three
that really hit me
three
was,
generations of that.
yeah, you know, like even as a black man, there's a level of even in growing up, like, okay, I'm good. Yeah, it happens, but that's an extreme situation. Until you get to a point where you're like a teenager and or you're a grown man and you start to see like, oh shit, doesn't matter where you're at, who you are. If you're black and you got to come into contact with the police, you're at risk. I've had situations where the police have me. Some people will say I talk like I'm white, you know, right? Because I talk properly and I've grown up like that, you know. And I grew up in the suburbs and have a, you know, decent education and you know, in my own suburban home, like across the street in a cul-de-sac, they were gonna throw me on the ground and mace me for taking a walk, bro. No cap. And I was just blowing off some steam because I got into an argument, family dispute with my brother. And the guy's like, I'll fucking make you. I'm like, dude, I'm like 16, 17 maybe, you know? And I'm like, if I was a cop, I would have walked with that kid, talked to him like, hey man, what's going on? You know, I'll just keep an eye on him. Like he's not doing anything wrong. He's just taking a walk, right? I thought I'm doing a good thing because I'm walking away from a confrontation, you know. And then me walking away from a confrontation got me threatened by a police officer, you know. So, and you start to wake up. Those situations wake you up to like, oh damn, like I'm different than my friends across the street, the white family who can just call them up and talk to the police officer, right? Like as if they're on a first name basis, you know. So
But not even that. You've ever we now to speak on it. We've been teenagers. We've been college students. We've been to parties.
mhm.
The way your white friend can say, "Fuck him, leave him alone, dude. Leave him alone. He's not doing nothing fucking wrong, man." You know, and don't chastise me on the white scent because I definitely will on the black scent. So respect to y'all. But what my point is that you learn even then, right? That there is because being able to talk back to authority,
Okay.
right? Being able to talk back to, and now this gets back to the programming, right? The programming of how you grew up,
Yeah.
your culture, and I think we've had like, you know, side chat conversation about, you know, what is actually white culture. You know what I'm saying? Because it feels like at some point of connectivity, there should be a language that we both understand of unspoken but when we look at you
White
guys
culture,
for
man.
when we look at you guys for having an advantage everywhere that you go and every place that you've been, regardless if you are poor. You know, we've said it before, like a poor white man is richer than a poor black man any day.
Yeah. There. I want to talk about something. You said white culture. I want to just peel that back a little bit and peel like,
Okay.
you know, um,
To
white
that motherfucker
culture,
off of Cat Blue.
white culture, black culture, both don't exist. Both don't exist. And I know that's controversial thing to say because black American culture exists, you know, white American maybe culture exists, white culture, black culture not. They're not even white and we're not even black. I always say we're browns, kid. We're taught these vernacular terms to divide us on the most end spectrums of things. You know, we are taught we're not even living in a logical world. We're living in a world that we've been taught and programmed how to speak about ourselves and how to speak about other people. So we start from that point of view right there. What do you guys say?
Yeah. My pushback to like what we've been taught. I do want to just say about the logic, right? And how, to your point, yes, the Black American culture, because the Black American culture is fixated on the fact of being inferior, right? So in just that particular bottle, right? We're just going to use this bottle right here. Just with that bottle in itself. So when you speak Black American
Black
culture,
American culture definitely has a struggle flavor to it, or a struggle element to it, I would say, because it doesn't matter if you're talking about jazz, if you're talking about hip hop, it doesn't matter if you're talking about, you know, the food we
industrial
cook,
complex,
the industrial complex, the food we create. All of it came from a struggle and overcoming the blues, and you listen to that music and it talks about the Black American experience. The white American experience, low key, has been about a little bit of patriotism above all else to me. That's what I think of. But when I just say white culture, black culture, there is no such thing. There's blacks that live in America that have a culture. There's whites that live in America that have a culture. Just like there's Irish culture, just like there's Italian culture, just like there's Jamaican culture, just like there's Nigerian culture. Culture comes
and
from a lived experience, from your identity, of the location, and the nurturing of where you come from. So when we blanketly say,
that's the word, nurture. Every other culture that you spoke of, Nigerian culture, nurture. Jamaican culture, Caribbean culture, nurture. Italian culture, from what we know of, nurture. Irish culture, nurture. Black American culture has never been able to be nurtured or be nurturing. It is purely based off of survival
to me,
and
yes, it's
and
survival, but what I mean by nurture is not in the
cultivate.
colloquial sense of how taken care of. I mean nurture as in the like nature versus nurture. That kind of way of thinking about it, because the nurture is of, yes, of survival, like it is of uh when you talk about nature versus nurture. Culture comes from nurture. Culture comes from nurture, not from nature. Like everybody, I could be born in Italy and I'll be a black Italian and I'll be having a black Italian experiences. So that's, but you're right. If you talk about nurturing, it's in terms of the colloquial, a mother takes care of a son or a daughter. That experience for Black
Or
Americans,
community
or
takes it.
community
Community take
takes
care of a
care.
community.
Yeah, takes care of the community. Exactly. That you're right. You're right, 100%. It hasn't been a nurturing experience for Black Americans in this country, and I think that the reality of that is a hard pill to swallow, not just for white people, but for Black people too. It's not, because it hurts, the realities of it. The country has not really atoned for the exploitation of people of our color. It hasn't. So you have people that grow up in the South, or grow up with this reality. Yeah, there's a sense of fuck those white people, or fuck those white boys. Yeah, you did something cool. Great, cool. You got arrested. Yeah, I heard it before. I've heard this story before with our people. Now what? Yeah, I don't really care. And when there is a level of now of a rather than a, so what, you went through it, now unless you fuck with our cause, fuck you. Whether it's like, you went through it, I've been there, maybe we can work on something together going forward. Maybe we can,
Who extends that olive branch?
Yeah, it's not even like, here's, I want to
No,
understand
I'm just
something.
go
I
ahead.
am
Yeah,
not even trying to land an olive branch or reckless bend. Come in, saying the conversation, because it might not be a conversation that reaches him. It might be a conversation that reaches another young white man that sees this, or a younger white woman who's saying, "Huh, that's their take on the reckless bend situation. I didn't think about that," and maybe there is a level of atonement where we can be like, you know, because I don't think people are having this conversation about this situation because the reaction you had is very much of the black culture, man. Like it might come from people like us and see it as, yeah, so what, and move on because it's like, yeah, we're going through something way worse, way more.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
more of
Because
a
yeah,
more of a comparison thing, than a I
and
want
you
to.
try to always remove me from that. You always try to, which is that's what iron sharpens iron. You always try to remove the comparison. What about him? What aboutism away from me because it strips the what I can see right now in the moment.
It
And
stops the
and
conversation once we
yes,
say, well, yeah, why you use racism for good, so what? It's like, all right, moving on, like, and I get it, but I look at it from a place of, and this is where my programming comes in. I have a sense of a vision, and I'm not necessarily thinking utopia, but a vision of everything that's going on in this world. And I look at where I'm born. I'm born into this America. I was born in Jersey, grew up in New York, right? And I'm looking at this world and I'm looking at America and I'm like, there's an opportunity here that's a unique opportunity for any place on earth that can be an example to overcome extreme atrocities done based on race, based on religion, extreme division based on race, based on religion, based off of gender, sexuality, because we have a voice here, and we're not necessarily um, an ethno state or a theocracy, in a sense. There's an opportunity to show the world what it's like to have a united country that is of all different types of race, genders, creeds, and everything like that. And I think over the past 10 years, we've been doing a very poor job of setting that example. So when I got out of the hospital, right, and I was sick, my brain opened up to this point of like uniting people. So my mind was always immediately going to what's the most important thing about life in this experience we call life. It's always to me the people you interact with, because at one point in time we know this experience is temporary. Like that's one thing and that's why I'm always saying I'm a humanist first. We know this experience we have here on earth is temporary. So no matter what story you tell yourself about you being a black man, somebody being a white man, white woman, black woman, Chinese, Asian, Italian, whatever, Nigerian, you're gonna be gone one day, right? And when you leave this earth, what was it all for? And that's where I have this programming because I've almost passed away at one point in my life, and it changed my. On things. So I always, when I hear that, when I hear the division, my brain goes to where is the truth in this, and or the middle, not even middle ground, but like the logical sound truth. And that's when I looked at the story for Rutgers Ben. I'm like, the truth is that this is corruption and it's wrong and it shouldn't happen. And if he's gonna fight corruption, I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he's doing that, regardless of it affecting us. Because any corporation losing and being taught that they're being given a lesson of you can't just steal shit from us is a good thing, and that can be an example for how you treat your business partners, your whoever. For other corporations, it's an example that we can fight back, whether you be black, brown, whatever. And that's where my mind goes. But I do get the other sentiment of like, why are we even talking about this? It's Legos. I do get the perception of that too.
well, and I also too, for like you say, you said the same thing about if a black man went and disrespected a synagogue or he went in there and shot up a mosque, something like that. Like it's not just everything black. No, but and to that point, when you asked me, it was like if the guy was a documentary on YouTube and his name was Reckless BJ and he did a story on Legos, I would be like no, because good is good, yes, but and then we started asking about percentage of who's good. You know what I'm saying? Because you did say, hey, any amount of good white men or good white people, who have a plurality, a purity. I'm sorry, of wanting to do good. We should be able to receive that. And to me, if I don't know your intentions, it's the equivalent of letting somebody in the quote unquote barbecue. I hate that thing too. But like, you know what I'm saying? The
Yeah.
extension of
I
you
don't.
present
I didn't say all
yourself
that,
well.
but I hear what you're
Yeah,
saying.
but
Being
what I'm
invited
saying,
to a barbecue is a different, exclusive group than saying, you know what, good job, white boy. You just you expose corruption. Good job. That's all I was doing. Like it's a whole. I'm not inviting him to the cookout. Like that's not what I said. I don't know this guy not like that. I don't know him like that. But I would say this, as far as the conversation goes, listen, black people and white people are being treated unfairly in this country and are being exploited. And that speaks to the video that I want to show you on fascism. We can take it step by
let's
step
go
on
right to
how
that. Yep,
fascism honestly does continue the programming and continues the division systemically.
absolutely.
Restoration in the face of supposed humiliation by immigrants, leftists, liberals,
Before I
minorities,
continue,
homosexuals.
this is a video off the channel Big Think. This is the 10 Tactics of Fascism. And I'm bringing this up because we're living through this. And I think that it's a little bit goes to the programming of America and the choice we all have as an individual to counteract our own preconceived notions, to prevent or to counteract this programming. But let's check it out.
Women, in the face of what the fascist leader says is a takeover of the country's media, cultural institutions, schools by these forces. And that's why you need a really macho, powerful, violent response. The fascist leader says he will solve the problem. Fascism is right-wing by nature. It's based on ultranationalism. However, you can have ultranationalist movements that are ultranationalist movements of minority groups. There is left-wing authoritarianism. There are bad things on the left. Stalin killed many, many people. Mao killed many, many people. These are terrible figures, but not all terrible things are fascist. Fascism is a very particular ideological structure. When thinking about fascism, you can't think about these individual elements in isolation. They come as a bundle. My name is James Stanley. I'm the Jacob Urowski Professor of Philosophy at Yale University and the author of 5 books, most recently, How Fascism Works: The Politics of Us and Them.
So we're going to go to the first, the first tactic. I'm just going to skip forward.
All nationalism involves a mythic past. So you can say, look, we're Polish people, people who spoke Polish and were sheep herders, and another bunch of Polish people who were fishermen. You can talk about how things were wonderful when we were all Polish together. That's a fine mythic past. But then there's the fascist mythic past. In the past, we were great. Wherein did our greatness consist? In our military. And in the past, the dominant racial group ruled over others. And then the fascist leader says, that has been taken from you by the leftists and communists. They want to weaken our military. They want to weaken our greatness.
One. And I actually, if you're watching here with us, who does that sound like? What does that sound like? I'm not going to listen. This is not to be, it's not to be political. This is not well, it's political. Sorry, but this is not to be.
Don't you lie to the good.
Huh?
I was about to say, don't you lie to them good people.
Nah. But this is not to be, what's the word for it? This is not to be divisive on, or to blame anybody, or to blame a side of the aisle, or to point fingers at somebody. I just want you to open your mind up and think, what does that sound like? And where and what these things that are happening is, where you stand on it, whatever. Let's go. Number two,
Propaganda is
propaganda.
ubiquitous, and everyone uses propaganda. In political propaganda, your main message is something other than the information you're conveying. Fascist propaganda is a very particular structure. It's based around a friend-enemy distinction. The political opponent, they are a merciless threat to your very existence and your traditions. They are the other. When they are in charge, it subverts the nation. So the structure, fascist propaganda, is based on the idea that the other are fundamentally opposed to the nation.
Real quick, propaganda, those saying that the other is fundamentally opposed to the nation. I hear a lot of people talk about, whether it talks about, there's a lot of Islamophobia, and there's a lot of anti-immigration stuff going on right now. And they said that a lot of people will say they don't share our values. And I think that is very much coded through the propaganda of they're other than this. And I always push back on that, because I'm like, you're talking about a large group of people now. And if you're being real, the only requirement to be an American should be, are you a good person that's willing to contribute? That's it. No, do you support the military? No, go ahead. No, because I want to
Well,
talk to
I
that.
think no. I think it's not that I'm arguing with that side. I think that now goes back to when you said they don't agree with our values. This would be like, what is the values? Because
Yeah.
if you know what I mean, like, because if we're talking about values of, you have to abide by a certain religion, because Christianity is America, or if you want to talk about you have to abide by paying taxes, where
Yeah, yeah.
billionaires
I
don't,
mean,
don't do that. Like, well, you know what I mean? Like, like
no,
what
you're right. You're
what
right. You're right.
values is
Yeah.
that? You know what I mean? Because now I'm like, what y'all white people talking about? Because you just told me, well, not you, Chidi, but the white people told me that my life ain't worth living. You know what I mean? Like, y'all treating me like, like the value of me was 3/5 of y'all. Like, the value of me was that my voice couldn't be heard if I was a woman. You know what I'm saying? My
Yeah.
value of me, like, so when you're saying that somebody else, and oh my gosh, okay, we're gonna get through this.
Yeah.
But I watched Stephen A. Smith with
Tatum.
Officer Tatum and Gary Chambers, and they had a specific talk, and this is about to the value, so I won't stay long. But the value thing is,
If you could find that
can
specific
somebody?
moment while we're
I
talking,
will.
find
Can
that,
somebody
and,
come
and
into
we can
our
bring it up, because
and
we can bring it up in the
I'm
middle of this. I want to go through all 10, but we
okay.
can bring it up in the middle of this whenever you find it. But let me just go through the Bill of Rights real quick, guys. So this is, you talk about somebody abiding by the values. I would start here. If we're talking about the Constitution, right? First Amendment protects freedom of religion. So you're right. Freedom of religion is the First Amendment. Freedom of
Okay.
speech, the press, peaceful assembly. As long as you're peacefully protesting, you're fine. The right to petition the government. So when we talk about like what it takes to be in America, our values, let's start there. Or do you believe in these things? Put them through a immigration test. Put them through that. Right now we're accepting people from China to go to colleges, about 5 million of them. We are accepting people from South Africa right now just because they're the only ones that can get H-1B1 visas. And basically we blocked out everybody else from immigrating to America for some odd reason. But when you are adding people to this country, let's start with that. Do they believe in freedom of speech, freedom of religion? Do they believe in the freedom of the press? Do they believe in peaceful assembly? These things. Second Amendment protects the right for people to keep and bear arms. You know, everybody, that's a debatable thing, but hey, this is what the country has stood on back then and back now. Now that, to what degree, we can discuss, you know, when we talk about gun control and all that stuff. The Third Amendment prohibits the use, the forced quartering of soldiers in private homes during peacetime. So forced quarters. Let me get a little bit more explain this.
Forced quarters, I believe, is like you can't enter somebody's home without a search warrant. I believe that's what that is. If I'm just going off the top of my head from social studies. But go ahead and verify that.
The statement is a core definition of the Third Amendment U.S. Constitution. It establishes that a federal government cannot force private citizens to house and feed military troops against their
Okay,
will
yeah,
during
okay,
times of
yeah,
war.
yeah, okay,
So
okay, yeah, yeah,
they
yeah,
can't be
yeah.
like, all right, so
Yeah, all right. So we ain't got no bunkers. They staying at your house tonight.
yeah,
You're right. Yeah,
all
yeah, 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 yeah. Yep,
right.
yep.
Then we got the Fourth Amendment, protects citizens from unreasonable search and seizures, and
Okay, that was
requires
see.
warrants to be supported by probable cause. That's where you
Yeah, I
go.
be on that shit. What
No,
you
no, listen,
mean?
this is all important. Like, you on point. Like, you were amendment early, but you're right. It's on there. You know, number 5, guarantees due process of law. Thank you, due process. We're violating right now with immigrants. We're violating due process with immigrants. We are taking them off the street and locking them up immediately based off of their complexion, even, or they're having an accent. Some people who have been citizens have been locked up, and they're treated horribly right now. So our own president doesn't fit the culture of what we say. We gotta abide by American values. This is what the country was built off of. Let's start here. So when I say being a good person, abiding by these values, being a good person, contributing to the whole. 6th, ensure the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury, the right to confront witnesses, and the right to legal counsel in criminal cases. 7, guarantees the right to a jury in a federal civil cases. 8th Amendment prohibits excessive bail, excessive fines, and cruel and unusual punishment. 9, clarifies that listing of certain rights in the Constitution does not mean other unlisted rights retained by other people are denied or disparaged. And 10, states that any powers not explicitly delegated to the federal government by the Constitution are reserved to the states or to the people. So when we go off the Bill of Rights, and I'm sure there's more, and there's been more amendments to the Constitution, but let's start with there. You know, if a person can't understand this and then call that out, they're not American. So people supporting people getting locked up in cages because they are Hispanic are not really abiding by our culture. And what they will tell you is that somebody who's practices Islam doesn't support our culture. So I just want to make it clear. That's what propaganda will tell you. They will make an other say that they're not part of our culture while you are completely ignoring what the basis of the reality of what we built this country on. All right.
I would like to just real quick of the interjection with that and the deconstruction or the deprogramming of it all, right? And I know this is now again I might seem to be that person, you know, but when this Constitution was signed and when these values were created and when these Bill of Rights were they weren't meant for my ancestors. Meaning now when people are saying let's make America great again, I'm not too sure if they mean when the Bill of Rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness did not include my black ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, is that the type of great America that. And my thing is, you never lived that. What I'm trying to understand is the unwillingness to be able to identify that I'm not like those those black people. My friends aren't getting murdered. Like my neighborhood is pretty clean, and my school. Like when you live under the prism, and then when you actually do drive by those quote unquote slums, and you look down on where you are at. When those people say they don't like living where they're living at, and you don't like driving through where they're living at, like the bare minimum of meeting somebody of like, if I don't even like hitting if I know I gotta get to motherfucking Genesee and Bailey, and Lord knows when I gotta make that right to go to my grandma's house, I gotta drive down Genesee. It's potholes, it's fiends, it's just.
Okay.
But it's not where I just came from. My mom lived in Cheektowaga. That's where the white people migrate to. Like, if I know that I don't, and if my commute got to go there, when I hear people say they don't like living in that condition that I don't like riding through, what will make me think that I'm not living a good privileged life already? To where that my platform or my propaganda is to say I need a better life. I need a better life by stripping away more resources from people who are already saying that their resources are finite already.
Yeah.
That is the thing that makes the empathy or the apathetic nature of it. Because when we're talking about these Bill of Rights that you're reading, I'm like, yeah, I remember being in it. This is like a
flashback.
Oh my gosh, like being in school and being social studies, four to a section of desks together. Open up your page and you're reading, and then as you get past Bill of Rights in social studies in the context of American history, I think the next chapter is slavery. Like if we're like, or is that after?
I mean,
like, before?
I don't know when it is, but for everybody,
like,
but I hear what you're saying. Like you're reading
after,
it
like,
and it doesn't correlate, and you're making a great point because you're right. When it was made, the quality wasn't guaranteed. But what I find brilliant about the American Constitution is the ability for amendments, is the collectively of saying, guys, hey, everybody, we got to change something. This is not okay. It's a constant, um, it's the constant refactoring or changing of the current state of America to be more just over time. That's the brilliance of this system here. And that's what we have to hold true as far as what it means to be an American, what it means to continually fight for what's right against these corporate, because the laws are made for us. We are the ones also making the laws as we continue to go along. The 14th Amendment was ratified in 1868. This is the primary amendment for legal equality. It grants citizenships to all persons born or naturalized in the United States and forbids states from denying anyone equal protection of the laws. It protects against systemic discrimination by government entities. And we know that happens. But this amendment gives us a linchpin to fight it whenever it happens. It gives us a legal precedent to say, hey, you can't do that to me. And I think that we feel powerless a lot of the times because we don't understand or have the knowledge to continually fight for ourselves and our rights. And that speaks to the next form of fascism, you know. And that's, I mean, they'll say it better than I, but it's anti-intellectualism.
As Hitler says in Mein Kampf, science is only useful insofar as it strengthens the nation. Fascism is a cult of the leader. It involves the leader setting the rules about what's true and false. So any kind of expertise, reality, all of that is a challenge to the authority of the leader. If science would help him, then he can say, okay, I'll use it. Institutions that teach multiple perspectives on history in all its complexity are always a threat to the fascist leader.
So they want to keep you docile by having you not have information, and that's why sometimes I might come here coming off as a freaking history teacher or something, because I want people to understand that we have a voice and we have the ability to enlighten people further than where they stand right now today. When it comes to fascism, because the reason why I'm talking about fascism is because this is the key to separating people and usurping power. All we do is propaganda, make sure they don't know what they really can do, what their rights are, otherize people, and then we also tell them a story of a great past, like you're saying. Oh, America, make America great again. We used to be great. We're not great anymore. These things are inherently a copycat of what fascist regimes do to maintain and control power. So when we talk and we fall into the tropes that make us divided, we're falling into their hands. That's where I'm coming from. I know you're looking for that clip.
I'm looking for the clip, but do you have the ability to pull up YouTube comments? Okay. We got a comment from Rich. If you can pull it up. That's what I was trying to see if I can do it on my end.
Let me see if I can find it.
Okay.
Rich says values are always some sort of ambiguous element that covertly stands for Anglo-Christian superiority being protected. It almost always contradicts the very Bill of Rights you are citing. The irony. Yo, shout out to Rich, man. You are hitting the nail on the head. And thanks for the comment, because it genuinely is what they're doing. It genuinely is what they're doing. They are constantly making the narrative of what America is, and they're going to lie to you along the ways of what this country was. But if we sit back and say, yeah, man, that's what they're doing, and don't push back, we allow this narrative to grow, and we allow this narrative to continue to take over this country as far as the fascist regime is concerned. So it becomes very defeatist, because we are because you can be a Christian individual and still respect somebody who is Muslim, and still respect somebody who's Jewish. But even as we speak that, like, it becomes this anti Islamophobia stuff, or anti-Semitic, nature of conversation, and that also plays into the fascism. So even though we might not like Israel and what they're doing over there, but then the anti-Semitic, verbiage gets more popularized, and then now we're in the streets not trusting somebody who is maybe a Jewish individual, or somebody who prays 5 times a day. Those are the things that starts to creep into our mindset, because we are living in a world where we're like, they're not American as like me. They're not of the values I am, and we have to deconstruct that. But go ahead.
And no, I mean, and when we talk, I think the biggest thing that we talked about was the reason why everything is programming. Again, I come from, two sides of the earth, both racially charged. I'm from Buffalo, New York, Western New York, where it is very much, go to the South towns of Buffalo. It's Irish flags flying all over the place. If my guy Rich know and is still watching in the chat, nigga, he know exactly. It's pubs, it's the bar, it's every South town. So, and realistically, those is when we talk about the melting pot of New York City, the segregation of a small city like Buffalo is really, really seen because the West Side is the Puerto Ricans,
Okay.
right? The West Side is Team Jordans. You know what I'm saying? And then you got the East Side. That's where we got, you hear it all the time through Griselda music. East Side Buffalo, the slime, the slums.
Mhm.
The north towns is going towards where that's where the money is. That's where you're going towards the pew and where the Bills play. But you're outside of Buffalo now, right? So you're not even realistically in Buffalo. So like
Yeah.
the segregation of Buffalo is very much understood in a way, right? And so much so like there's only a few things that can commemorate where these things can be because right now the World Cup's going. There's no USA going on right now in Buffalo because we got our Irish people, we got our motherfucking, like we got our Caribbean people that's coming up there going to our SUNY schools. Like it's
Mhm.
very divisive right now, but the let the Buffalo Bills play. One band, one sound. You know what I'm
Just like
saying?
what's going on with the Knicks in New York. We got our
Exactly.
Dominicans, we got our,
Exactly.
Haitians, Italians. Doesn't matter where you are. Straight up.
Jews out there breakdancing, my nigga. They
Yeah,
got
Hasidic Jews are out there going crazy, and it's a beautiful thing. But it shows that it's so crazy how we do this mentally. Like we come together for this and we show that we can all get along. But once the game is over and once the finals are over, it's back to, yeah, I'm not walking in that hood. Yeah, I don't trust these Hasidic Jews. They have a ton under New York City, and they might have a ton under New York City. We all know we saw it, but doesn't mean here's the thing about it. This whole thing of this thing called life is a pursuit of happiness. I think that even though I'm not you, I think you deserve a pursuit of happiness. I think that you deserve to um, have a good life, but a matter of the otherization of the other people that are not like you, is what the issue is here in America and abroad too. But I'm just talking about here because when you can see something unjust, period, and just call it out, that's unjust, then we're all on one band, one sound. It doesn't matter what race you are, it doesn't matter what religion you are. That's when we are going to see real impact and change in this country, and that's what I truly believe. But moving along with the video, um, the next thing is truth. Let me see what they got us.
The center of democracy is truth. You're not free if you've been lied to. Nobody thinks the people of North Korea are free. The people of North Korea will vote for dear leader every time because they've been lied to. It's not a free vote because they don't have access to the truth. Equality similarly requires truth. Because equality in democracy doesn't mean we all have the same amount of money. It doesn't mean we all have the same car. It means political equality, that each of our voices matters the same. And political equality means speaking truth to power. If someone really powerful is humiliated when they're caught lying, that's the core of political equality. So if you're going to rip the heart out of democracy, you get people used to lies.
now that is where I reside, right? And I reside with that because
Talk about it.
we've been again back to the school system, been lied to, right? Back to the religion, we've been lied to. Back to like the cause of slavery, the end of slavery. The you know uh where the North to the point was the North good or did the North just want in? You know what I'm saying? Like you like really now deconstructing and deprogramming that the North saved the slaves that we are, or did the North say, "Hey, them niggas got free labor down there and making a ton down there," and like, "Hey, let me get some of those." Like, nah, nigga, you gotta get your own ship off the water. Well, ain't no oceans up here, nigga. All the shit down, all the water, all the water down there. You know what I mean? Or we got to go to some Western territory that we haven't even been to yet at that time, like we're in where we're at, right? So, when we've been, I'll just use this for just simple and plain. My church, Young Tabernacle Holiness Church in Buffalo, I will keep talking about it. They had women in the pulpit. We had women preachers. Pastor Gene Young, when Pastor Simmons passed away, our male pastor, when he passed away, Pastor Gene Young, woman became who she was assistant pastor and became the lead pastor. She's a woman. Then I go down and I live with my father down in Birmingham and Reverend Greason. Now I want to let you know about my Reverend Greason who baptized me, right? Was a living player from the Negro League, right? Like you know what I'm saying? Like Pastor William Greason was like one of them from coming up from it, and so as someone who lived in the South and became a preacher, he preached against women being in the pulpit. So at 15, I'm trying to figure out what is this religion? Like, do I go back home? Do I listen to Sister Sash? Do I listen to Auntie Jean? Do I listen to Aunt Charlotte? Do I, you know what I'm saying? Like, do I listen to these women of power under the guidance of the scripture that I was just baptized in? You know what I'm saying? Like, so just from there, you're just thrown into a spin of like what's
and
real.
How old are you at that time?
I'm 15 because I moved from Buffalo to Birmingham when I was 13. I got baptized. When was that Super Bowl? I got baptized Super Bowl Sunday of Bears and Colts.
Oh, really?
No lie. I got baptized Super Bowl Sunday of Bears and Colts.
First Super Bowl.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was Lovey Smith and Tony Dungy.
Yeah, Tony Dungy, two black coaches, first time, in the Super Bowl. Yeah. And you're at a pivotal point, like you're in your adolescent stage and you're questioning things, right? And this, that speaks to truth because you're getting one story when when you grow up in Buffalo, and you get another story when you go down there because it changes your reality of like, But speaking to your point on the Civil War, I want to ask you, were you taught that the North was trying to get in on slavery?
That was something I kind of divvied into after the fact. Like growing up, it was taught, rose-colored glasses that, the North helped the slaves free themselves with the Emancipation Proclamation from Abe Lincoln.
Yeah, because from what I'm saying is that the crux was slavery. The cause of it was the South seceding from the Union, leaving the Union due to slavery, and the clearest evidence that it was about slavery and that is that there was a declaration of causes of seceding the states, and Mississippi explicitly said our position is thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery, the greatest material interest of the world. They thought that was in favor of the world. Texas asserted that state was maintained exclusively for the white race, and that enslavement of African race was authorized by the will of the Almighty Creator. So these are the things that Texas was saying. If South Carolina said formally seceded it because northern states had failed to uphold the Fugitive Slave Act and were electing a president, Abraham Lincoln, hostile to slavery. So I don't know if it was the North trying to get in on slavery. I still, to this day, I've never heard that. I'll be honest with you. I've never heard that they're like, yeah, we want to make money too. I've not heard that. So, but but maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe I haven't heard the full story.
No. I mean, this goes back to now. I'm fast forward and I'm reading, Ta-Nehisi Coates, and I'm all into, now I got my tinfoil hat on, now I'm trying to really deconstruct and program and reprogram myself from, again, is what I have digested nutritious? You know what I'm saying? Like it is what I have, you know, just been living off of substance. Is it just junk food to get me to where I don't know, where I am fogged, to where I don't, where, you know what I mean? Back
Mhm.
to, you know,
Now,
a tinfoil had a secret society. They say what? They throw it in your face to make sure you're like, well, damn, that's pretty, yeah, that's pretty right. Because now everybody's going to aliens. Like, we don't know what the fuck's going on right now. So, like, yeah, I really, at this point, back to who built the pyramids, like, niggas don't know what is true or false, and living off the again, like, you know, the black Israelites is we the true chosen ones of God. Okay, you know, that's what they stand on. But then that is a direct fight against the Anglo-Saxons. You understand? So even in the religion of Christianity, you know, and who's chosen by God, the real Jewish people. That's why we call them Hasidic Jews, and we call them right, Jewish, not Jews. You know what I mean? Like that's something that I heard. Like, yo, that's why they're Jewish. They're not real Jews. And I'm like, well, what is a real Jew? You know, like now I'm trying to really figure out like what all of this means, and that is the existential um point of, you know, who freed slaves, you know, with the
yeah,
North. So let me see
the
if I can
North,
grab that.
the
If I can find
North. Okay, you definitely find that because I'm curious on that. But like, let's be real. Abraham Lincoln wanted to preserve the Union. He wanted, that was his main goal, preserving the Union of, you know, everybody sticking together, and regardless of slaves happening being there or not, you know. But the truth of the matter is that the North, it wasn't beneficial to have slaves, you know, and over time they were like giving slaves rights because they had slaves in the North, you know, at one time, and over time they were giving more and more rights to the slaves because it was one, inhumane, two, they don't have as much fertile plantation land, and you know the North is way more rocky, you know. So when there's not enough of a need, and on top of that, it's an inhumane, you know, source of, you know, income. You know, it's not the primary income, and you don't. So they're starting to roll back slave um, regulations and all that stuff, you know. And over time, things changed in the North, and it got to the point where it's like, yeah, man, the North is saying we should just abolish this whole thing because now you go to the South, which is the same country of the Union, and they're over here. There's people that I'm working with side by side up north. Y'all are whipping and chains and like, yo, we off that, you know. So, but created a friction. It was solely about slavery, but I do think it became a more it wasn't like we're
now.
out here to save. It was an economic thing that
It
became
was
a moral thing.
that was that, and so I think this ties realistically back to the reckless bin, right? Is it the cart before the horse, right? As far as like, are you doing it good and you making good content? You like, all right, fuck it, for the good of it, or are you doing it for the good of it and it's good content? With this situation, so like if like you said, the North had slaves, they abolished slavery because, like you said, it wasn't economically beneficial for them to continue with that. And to your point, they could not sustain economically, right, with the South. So when you have like, there would have been two literal, like, it would have been North America, South America in North
Yeah,
America.
in
You know
North
what I
America.
mean? Like it
Yeah.
would that would have been North America, South America, and North America, and the North America would not have been able to be sustainable.
Yeah.
They would not have. They would not.
It
And
was a
so
budding has a like a, there were two trains about to clash at some point because the philosophies that changed over time with the North. It's not like they loved Black America. It's just that it wasn't
correct.
like we don't need them to be slaves. Over time, they just didn't need it as much as the South needed it. You know?
And they also didn't want the. And this goes back to the point of doing something. This is where I have a real crux of the issue. To your point, like you said, you said it yourself just right then. It's not like they had a real moral compass on the livelihood of Black people because they did own them at one point. You know,
Mhm.
they did, and to your point, when they freed them, now this goes back to when they freed them, or you know, how they were able to live up there was definitely better than how they were living. Absolutely, which is why it goes back to they can always say to us, or you know, hey, it's better than where you been. It's better than what it used to be. Like even during that time, they can say, "Hey, nigga, you can go down to Virginia if you want." You know what I mean? Like you can
Mhm.
go down there if you don't like the jobs that we give you, or the little bit of money that we give you,
Mhm.
or the shack that we give you. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it wasn't like when they abolished slavery, they're like, all right, man, we're gonna put you on even playing field.
No way.
Like no,
Yeah.
like you know,
Yeah.
and the blacks still had to fight for in that war to solidify themselves as um worthy citizens to keep their right in the grand scheme of things. Like
Mhm.
you have to fight with us to show your loyalty that we made the right decision, and to the point it was a balancing of protecting power, right? The North was going to lose position within the U.S. Senate. They were gonna, you know what I mean? Like if the economic imbalance was going to continue,
I don't
the
think it was
power was going to shift.
I don't think it was an economic imbalance. I think they made money in the South. I think the South was primarily just dependent on slaves. As the Industrial Revolution started to happen, they weren't making money solely on slaves up north. It just wasn't the main source of their income. The North always had more money. You know, they actually worked with the South. You know, and that's how the South was. You know, but that was like the primary source of income in the South. And then you have the whole racism of like, yeah, we're just better because we're white type of shit.
Yeah, it's free. It's free labor. Like so, when I'm like you said, we're doing deals.
Uh-huh.
Like if I don't have no overhead, and I think that's what I'm saying. The economic imbalance. The North is like, nigga, we know you ain't paying for nothing. Why you still hitting us for 2 nickels? Hey man, we need 2 nickels, cuz. You know what I'm saying? And the North is really like, bro, you ain't paying a dime. You got 2 nickels. You ain't paying a dime. Literally, nigga. So they hitting them over the head. So like I said, I always think it's intrinsic on us to be, and I think that's our fundamental, me and you. Like I think that is really our fundamental,
Uh-huh.
where I I cynicism will always be in the forefront of where I'm trying to see an angle from somebody. Because again, I always know it's for a game. And I'm not even talking about, let's not even, I'll bring it as personal as my wife. I know when that nigga coming to me with that honey or the sweetie, or she just, nigga, she done already spent some money. She want to spend some money, or she done fucked up some money. Like that's how I know. Like and so
Okay.
like go ahead.
I know this might just follow me here. I know I like my analogies, right? But to understand the true primary crux of the Civil War, imagine the North and South as two business partners who co-own a rapidly going company, which would be the United States. By 1860, their conversations about expanding the business sound like this. The South, look, our division of the company relies entirely on a specific software system to make profit. The system is chattel slavery. It's how we grow our content. It's cotton. It's where our money is tied, and our entire way of life depends on it. We are about to open a bunch of brand new offices out west. We need to install our software, our child slavery in those new branches too. The North says, hold on, your software is deeply unethical, and frankly, it makes the rest of the company look terrible outside the world. So the rest of the world is not on that shit. Plus, we want the new Western branches to be run by independent free workers who don't have to compete with your free slave labor. We aren't going to force you to delete your software in your current Southern offices right now, but we are absolutely drawing a line. No installing it in the new Western branches. South, you understand, if we don't expand our software into the new branches, your free labor system will eventually dominate the entire your free labor system will eventually dominate the entire company. You'll get more votes on the board of directors. Eventually, you will have enough power to change the company bylaws and delete our software everywhere, even in our home offices. Our system must grow or it will die. The North will just elect a new CEO, Abraham Lincoln, and his official platform is that the Western branches will remain strictly free labor. The software will not be allowed to expand. The South said, that's it, we're done. If we can't expand our system, we don't want to be a part of this company anymore. We're breaking away to start our own complete separate corporation where our software is permanently protected as a fundamental cornerstone of the business. The North said, absolutely not. You can't just quit the company and take half the assets with you. We will go to war to keep this partnership together. So it's about the advancement towards the West, like you were saying, and the North saying, hey, it's not a good look. When we go out West, those states, we don't want the slavery thing. Let's stop that for where we're advancing. They're like, no, we need to keep it. And that's because their whole livelihood depended on chattel slavery. But yeah, and this is where, when we talk about anti-intellectualism and the truth, I think that sometimes we have our own sources and things, but we need to keep, advancing that so we have a firmer grasp of things. Like when we talk about truth and fascism, what we just saw a couple days ago on Monday with Trump, the interview, she's asking him questions and all he's doing is fucking lying. That is a fundamental thing of fascism. That's a fundamental way of controlling the people, is to completely subvert their understanding of the truth so that they can be subservient. But if you're walking around as if, oh no, go finish what you're saying. I'm sorry. I don't want to hear what you're
go. No, go
no,
what you
but
was about to say.
if you're walking around as if the election was stolen, and you're walking around as if, oh yeah, we should pay the January 6th rioters because people are committing suicide, and you're walking around as if, oh, there's all this election fraud in California because Trump said it, then yeah, you are feeding fascism. On the other hand, the black people, if you're walking around with the sentiment that they wanted in on slavery from the North, that can also be divisive, and you're also, your framework of mind is going to be of an anti anything that is, American, essentially, whether it be
Yes, and Vince doesn't help me with the new album. Vince don't, you know what I'm saying? White Flag is really banging right now, you know what I'm saying? But I think to what you just read, I think now, I mean, what it's again, and this is the North benefiting off of what the South provides. Everything is intertwined. Like the morality of like, yeah, I abolish slavery up here, but that don't mean you stop getting your money and you finance and you fund. So like,
it was a negotiation the entire time. It was like, all right, keep your slaves, but yeah, let's not do that over here with these new states. All right, and they're
so
like, no.
So my thing is, who would be those independent? So now my thing is, who would be those independent people? Because from what it sounds like, and just like from what the South probably perceives it, well, if we can't set up shop there, and there's nobody over there, it seemed like you setting up shop there, and it sounds like you gonna be out there setting the precedent. And it's gonna be like
it's gonna be our laws up north. Yeah, that's how you get a California on the west.
How you gonna say that I'm gonna establish something like the North while using my dirty blood cattle slave money? Like, how does your banks run? Your textiles run? Like, how does your industrial boom happen without this free labor where nobody has to pay the cost?
And then we, the chattel slaves, finally get rights in this corporation, right? We are not just a software, we are human beings. So we start to now say, all right, we need our rights. And now it causes even more friction in this company called the United States. You know,
Because them southern niggas is like,
we told you this is gonna happen.
I shit you not, I'm gonna get this motherfucker right.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I really fundamentally shit you not, nigga. I hope you're ready to die about this.
Exactly. You know.
I hope you're ready to die about this, because no. And yeah, and so when they say the South lost, this is, and they say history repeat. Oh my God, is that a fucking wasp?
You want to work careful, man.
Bitch, nigga, you can't live over here. Man. That wasp cannot live over here. But to when you to connect the point with the Donald Trump stuff, what history repeats itself. When they say the South didn't really lose, and you see the Confederate flags waving in the air, because no, we didn't
still
lose.
living in this
This is the 2020 election.
mindset. Yeah.
Well, we didn't
So
lose.
they
My nigga,
want
like,
to
yeah.
believe so much that he didn't lose that, and they didn't lose the Civil War. But the truth of the matter is, the times have moved past you. So that's why the whole making America great again is so attractive to the sons and daughters of the Confederacy, and the ethos of we're better than, we shouldn't have this poor life because you got ruined when we were on the plantation making thousands of millions, off of slaves, and our generational wealth have now depleted because of you guys changing our way of life. So there comes a time where we have to then say, all right, erasing the trauma of Black Americans is a priority in this country by actually atoning for that, and also erasing the false reality of the superiority complex these guys have. It should be a priority in this country, because
But
it causes for it causes for the division to persist, because there is no universal truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I did back to, and this is my tie to Birmingham now. My school, West End, that's no longer there, was directly next to Robert E. Lee Middle School. So we talking about, and since we talking about Confederate and in 1865, Robert E. Lee was the Confederate general who motherfucker surrendered himself to Ulysses E. Grant. So when you got that 50 ball, you know what I'm saying? That's a Grant. That's him. Like, you know what I mean? So when you got that 50 in your pocket, that's Ulysses Grant. You know what I mean? But to what I'm saying is, when General Robert E. Lee is on schools still, when his statue is still there, when Ole Miss proudly is hanging the Confederate flag, to where now this new generation of sports athletes is led, y'all got to take that shit down, or we ain't even committing. And to your point, you read it yourself. Ole Miss was one of the states down there that was like, hell no, nah, bro. Like, so they've been on a hell no nah tour for about 250 years,
Yeah,
nigga.
man, forever.
Mississippi been on hell no nah for a minute, nigga.
Yeah, exactly. So they've been on that, and there's a real atonement that has to come for this country if we want a brighter future with these leaders of these Confederate states, because they're living in a false reality. But just as much as I feel Black Americans can be anti-America with the false reality that we cannot get better, that it cannot improve because of the where we come from in this country. Like, I get it, reparations hasn't happened, and we are still asking for that shit. But the only way we do that is to expose the system for what it is. Moving forward, what is another form of step of fascism?
Here's a fact about humans. We all pretty much suck to the same degree. One group of us is not better than another group of us. Hierarchy is central here. because it's the big lie at the center of things.
We
What
just spoke
is
about this.
racism but one big lie? Racism is the lie that one group is better than another. You're told this religion is better, this race is better, this gender is better. It's really a moral claim, has more moral worth. And then once you have hierarchy set up, you can make people very nervous and frightened about losing their position on that hierarchy.
So, like we just mentioned, the lie and the truth of like how we gotta, tackle the white supremacists and these like the people who are in control of Ole Miss and tackle that head on is to dismantle the lie they've been told about them being supreme, being better, and also dismantle the lie about black people being inferior. And that's where I'm trying to get to, where the apathy comes from. When black people are inherently taught that they are inferior, they always are going to feel like nothing can change. They're always going to feel like, fuck those white people. They're on different side, because they don't see any allies. They see that you're all a part of this superiority complex, and it's not always the case. Like we said with Reckless, we don't know what he really stands for, but we know that, hey man, he is against corporations. We're against corporations. We can align on that one thing. Go ahead.
Our previous president, we was getting to the scuttlebutt with Charlemagne. We're not talking about that. The question that you was asked: can a person grow? Right? Can a person grow? To your point, do you believe Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton grew when we're talking about super predators and we're talking about the crime bill, right? That was disproportionately placed upon, we're talking about black people during the early 90s.
If I'm being 100% with you, I can't answer that question. I really can't. I think that they are also a part of a lie being told of what he just spoke to, a hierarchy. So you are able to now say they're to blame for their circumstances. So they're doing all the crime, and they're doing all the drugs, and at one point they were that person. And I do think that if you were taught them today, actually, I don't know. If you were talking to them, maybe they would support that shit, but in their hearts, because saying something publicly, oh yeah, I made a mistake, is different than you talking to them at, on their couch in the living room or at the dinner table and saying, what's your stance on the crime bill today? Like, I would love to hear that from Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, and that kind of stuff. I don't know. But the hierarchy thing, as you can see, we've only had one half white president. It's still going on to this day. So there's a whole wave of people that need to understand that you're being lied to as far as the value and the realities when it comes to the treatment of Black Americans still to this day, and how they're looked at. Because I say that because when you believe you just got to pull themselves by their bootstraps, you're avoiding the systemic racism. You're avoiding the systemic reasons that are in place that prevent them from pulling them up by their bootstraps when they have no straps. So I think there's an ignorance that's still in this country when it comes to those things. So,
but it's perpetuated with things that have quote unquote worked realistically. Like, when we are talking about the 1994 crime bill, and we're talking about the major provisions of that bill, to get it passed, legislation had to compile $30.2 billion in funding to get that taken care of. And when we speaking about the money this is the spending that was done while people are saying President Clinton left us with a surplus. So let's just think about that for a second. He's spending, right, to be tougher on crimes, to harsher, put $100,000 new police officers nationwide in a program. It provided $9.7 billion for prison constructions, right? Which now we're talking about the 3 strikes and you're out. Like these are all the things that have impacted. Not only we're not talking about just Black and Latino communities. We're not talking about that. We're talking about state prison population. We're talking about the incarceration of youth. Right.
Yeah.
We're talking about like we're talking about now. This is now where things have been 30 years now perpetuated to where we are a number. We have to feel because you got to. This is why let's pay attention to COVID, nigga. Take the jab, get this shit back on track, cause this real estate is losing money by the motherfucking day. Every day that these lights is on, that I'm paying for this internet, that these computers ain't working, that these phones ain't ringing, that this like, and we're extrapolating that to a prison. These niggas build acres, miles and shit away from that shit needs to be filled with people. Now, it ain't just Black people, it ain't just Latino people, it is white people in there, but when we talk about the population of America only being 13% African American or Black descent, I guarantee you the population of a prison is close to what, 70 more? You know what I'm saying? So like those numbers, that's the math.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing that, that's the thing for me, like when I'm talking about the good, right? When Joe's standing next to Obama, I'm trying to figure out, damn, Obama, that's the only man that you could have got standing by you, because by you endorsing Joe, you then endorse Joe for the next 8 years, because he was with you for 8 years and then he ran, and you know what I mean, we had to get him out. Like, so, you know what I mean? So it's a trickle down effect to where I have to question my allegiance, my alliance, my vote
100%.
that matters, that, like all of that plays into a part with somebody like me. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Absolutely. I completely hear you on that. Eh,
Hierarchy goes right into victimhood, because once you convince people that they are justifiably higher on the hierarchy, then you can tell them that they're victims of equality. German Christians are victims of Jews. White Americans are victims of Black American equality. Men are victims of feminism. Once you convince people that they should be better, that they have earned a position on the hierarchy over others, then you can tell them that equality is actually victimhood. Loyalty to the dominant group means law-abidingness, and the minority group is by its nature not law-abiding.
What's the next one? The next one I think is important. If I remember this, this the Law and Order, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Law and order in fascist politics means the members of the minority group who accept their subservient role, they're law-abiding, and the members of the dominant group, by their very nature, are law-abiding. By definition, the leader can't violate law and order. So law and order doesn't mean justice. Law and order doesn't mean equality. Law and order structures who's legitimate and who's not.
We're seeing that today.
We seen that through the 2 years of a president being elected. Like law, again, so to people who didn't listen and are just picking up, fascism isn't just one of these things, because you can cherry pick.
Yeah.
Fascism is like, is there a collective of all of this?
Can you
That
see all these things
yes,
happening? And I'm not gonna
absolutely,
lie, so far they're 7 for 7 as of our current state.
nigga.
Propaganda, the anti-intellectualism, defunding of schools, the not believing in science and shit, the whole fucking drink bleach to get rid of COVID. Like they're the propaganda, the anti-truth, the story they tell you of America being great. This is all a lie. And then you go to Law and Order, and we see that there's the Epstein files. Nobody's getting held accountable for that. Trump is a felon himself. We just saw yesterday the bricks and minifigs, stealing $200,000 worth of Legos and being able to use the law against the owner, the people who are, who are the former owners or the real owners. Like it's this hierarchy being then used to control people. And clearly the justice system is like he said, the what do you say, the I'm sorry, he can't break the law. The dominant,
No,
by their very
the leader
nature,
the leader can't bring it.
yeah,
Yeah.
the leader can't break the law. The dominant group by their nature are law abiding, so no matter what they do, they're law abiding. And the inferior group by their nature is lawless. And we're seeing that, if you it is, and I'm telling you guys, it's not just a race thing. They're expanding this to everybody who they don't want, who's not being controlled, who wants to point out the fraudulent people who are awake and stuff like that. That whole thing, Trump saying that the election's stolen. That's a reason why he keeps saying that. The more and more he says that he wants to make it true, the more and more he says that he wants people to be drawn in with this propaganda when he knows he lost in court 60 times to people who are already Republican judges. But it's a thing that he has to repeat because it helps, drown out the voice and also distort the law and order of this country. So we get to then criminalize the inferior group, which is LGBTQIA plus, which is immigrants, which is black and brown people, which is Islamists, which is now becoming even the Jews in some facets, depending on how you look at it. And I get it, the Jews have a lot of power, but people are saying, and there's been a lot of anti-Jew rhetoric lately, and I don't want to avoid that because they are technically a minority group as well.
Yeah, they are. Absolutely.
Fascist movements typically, though not invariably, rest on an urban-rural divide. The cities are where there's decadence, where the elites congregate, where there's immigrants, there's criminality, there's Sodom and Gomorrah. In the city, there's not real work. The pure, hardworking, real members of the nation live in the rural areas where they work hard with their hands. When our politicians talk about inner city voters or urban voters, we all know what they mean. Arbeit macht frei, work shall make you free. This was written on the gates of Auschwitz. The idea is that the minority group, they're lazy and they need to be made to work. Free labor. The minority group and the leftists, they're lazy by their nature, and it gives them a work ethic. Labor unions are run by communists who are trying to make things easier. Hard work is a virtue. In liberal democracy, we don't value people by how hard they work. What would happen to disabled people who can't work? They would then have no value. It's why the Nazis had the T4 program to murder the disabled, because the disabled were lebensunwertiges Leben, life unworthy of life, because to be valued was to be capable of hard work. Each of these individual elements is not in and of itself fascist, but you have to worry when they're all grouped together. When honest conservatives are lured into fascism by people who tell them, look, it's an existential fight. I know you don't accept everything we do, you don't accept every doctrine, but your family is under threat. Your family is at risk. So without us, you're in peril. Those moments are the times when we need to worry about fascism.
And there you have it. Obviously, I want to get to the last because I know we've been running along. But
Right.
as we talked about with Walmart, and we talk about these corporations and Amazon and not wanting to busting unions, guys, it's too close to home. The billionaires we talk about is too close to home. And like he said, um, Nazi Germany started with the democratic process, and we then got the Holocaust. Um, so just be awake and be aware of the signs and tactics of fascism because it doesn't just pull a guys and a wool over the people who we expect, the rural Americans who are MAGA, who are conservative and Christian. It pulls the wool over people who are like me and you as well, where we can almost fall into the subservient role by just the apathy and the by the story that's been told for us all this time because it's also propaganda that we're hearing about ourselves. We are powerful people, man. I don't care what you are. I always say it, man. We're all entitled to the pursuit of happiness, regardless of who you are, skin color, tone, whatever it may be, religion, creed, and all that stuff. And by that facet, your voice matters, and that means the other person's voice matters. That means you got to look at things from a non-binary point of view when the world tells you that people are not in your favor, people don't love you, people don't care about you, and you shouldn't care about people thus because they're against you. There's a lot of anti-black stuff out there, but there's a lot of people that take that internally into their spirit and then are also not able to then see the world from a human point of view. And that's where I'm trying to get more people to, if that makes sense. Just more of like we all know we are in a position where we are more power together, more powerful together, and we are actively being pitted against each other. Granted, some things hey, some people are your enemies flat out. You can't you got there's a line that has to be drawn, but not everybody is in that group. That's all I'm trying to say.
No, and to your point, you are absolutely right, bro. And I think the biggest thing is that I wanted to have a conversation because we are two brothers and we are two different, you know, culturally represented people. Like you say, you come from the suburbs. I come from across the tracks. You know what I'm saying? Like you like um, you, the way that we have them programmed. Again, we talk about it in a generic term about your Nigerian culture, and it's probably something that I bet, and not even just Nigerians, but Africans in totality, be like, we are so beyond the stereotype of what you think that we supposed to be. But in real life, we've had conversations, and you're like, yeah, I think I'm the only one out the way that's living creatively. You know what I'm saying? That's living without the program that was
Mhm.
instilled in me. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
And with that being said, you go through hardships that people that you literally grew up in the same household with cannot identify with. Right? Like people who same mom and dad, same blah, same nigga, we took baths together, ate out the same pot together, like, but you can't see me for who I am right now because I am not following the program. And that falls into me being a stay-at-home dad, and the perpetual side eye that my wife gets to, like, oh, your husband don't work. You know what I'm saying? Like you like, yeah, your husband don't work. And I would
I'm
gladly
working right
say,
now.
come bring your ass and watch these three motherfucking kids, nigga. It's a fucking job I do not get a check for, nigga. And granted, that is everybody who decided to live the life of having children, having a family, and then be able to have to migrate through those times of how you are able to navigate that. What my thing is that I argue with my wife all the time, and what we say is that we and I are not the same as anybody else or him. Like what they got going on in their relationship, or what you see on TikTok, or what goes on in the show Fatima, whatever the fuck you watching, or whatever you see, or whatever's in your zeitgeist, that don't always seem to work for someone else, right? And I think to your point, like how you see certain grifters, or how you see certain people move, or how you see certain people that will play their role for a bag, and you're like, damn, nigga, you don't stand for something. Like you know what I mean? Like you gonna get in front of here, you gonna tighten up your tie, you gonna put on your 3-piece and your 5-button and your double-breasted, you gonna come out here and you gonna play the fool. You know what I'm saying? And
Everybody plays the fool.
that fits a nigga for a few. And the American nigga and the Nigerian nigga, we be looking at Acho and Stephen A the same way. Like, oh, y'all niggas
100%.
same boat.
Because here's
like,
the thing, what they do is they see the divide and they're like, oh, where's the money in this? Let me capitalize off of it. And I
so
think
share my screen. I got that
that's
for you.
expected, huh?
Share my screen. I got that for
Oh
you.
yeah, for sure.
As you make your point, I got the video to support that what you was just saying.
Oh wait, hold up. Let me add it to the joint. I forgot.
But I do want to shoot some bail before you land. Is that
Of course.
I do no,
No, I'm joking.
I
I'm
do
joking.
think
It's Stephen A.
I do.
And
I got you, man.
Tatum.
Hold on. Let me tell you this. Is there? Oh, I sent the story to you. I have to do more research. There is like a backing of a startup company that's putting like 250 million into like YouTube content creators, and they're being represented by CAA. So I gotta keep it clean, cause across the board.
All right, CAA. Listen, I'm gonna be me if they represent. I'm gonna be me. I'll just say that. I'm a humanist, black man, Nigerian. So if you want that, holla at me, bro. I ain't changing.
So Gary Chambers is somebody I really would like to get. I would like to reach out to. I already subscribed to our channel. He has his Gmail in the bio. He fits our research to what we've been doing.
Okay.
I already that he fits. So and the reason why I said shoot some bells, because as you were about to land with your point, which I will let you land, Stephen A is presenting himself within the conference. If you go to the thumbnail of this video, which I don't really want to because I lose my space,
Yeah.
but if you go look at, you can search the thumbnail yourself. The thumbnail of the recent video of this is exactly he ain't doing himself no favors when it comes to
I'm not surprised.
when it comes to how you think of him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I do love that he is able to platform this. I really do. That's the bill. I really do appreciate that he has the ability to platform this, to give us the ability to think, to give us the ability to be like, because I said, yo, you got to watch this interview. I said, it's with Gary Chambers. We know him. We did him before he did the Jasmine Crockett numbers in Texas and broke it down and stuff like that. And I was like, this officer, he was like, oh my God.
That's Officer Tatum. No. That coon. I don't want to hear shit from that guy. But yeah.
So what makes Officer Tatum so bad before we even get into the conversation? What
Officer
have
Tatum,
you
he went
or
on.
know about him?
I was introduced to him because I watch Adam Preach, and they are like comedians who do like what we do. We just social commentary, and they had a whole feud with like the Fresh and Fit podcast. Basically, it's like a red pill podcast where they talk to women and tell them that they're bitches and hoes, and you should change and be a more traditional woman. That's what they do there. Officer Tatum was a guest on the Fresh and Fit podcast, and he was or was it Fresh and Fit podcast? It might have been a different podcast actually. It might have been the whatever podcast or something. What basically is another podcast, Red Pill, telling OnlyFans models that they're hoes. But he went on that show and he's like, yeah, I'm a man, I'll never cry in front of my woman because I'm a man. And men don't cry. If I have to cry, I'm gonna go in another room and she'll never see me cry. I'm a man. And then
Respect.
when Charlie
That
Kirk
bitch,
dies,
that bitch ain't never made him angry enough.
yeah, and then when Charlie Kirk dies, this bitch ass nigga puts a
I know he
camera
ain't cried.
puts a camera in front of his face
I
and
know he
it
ain't
starts
cried,
crying, dog.
Did he do the DDG cry
He
though?
starts
Did he do this?
crying.
Did he do this?
No.
Did he-
This is real tears, bro. Real ass tears. So I'm sorry, I'm getting mad now because you see, the guy's a fraud, bro. He cried for this Charlie Kirk dude who flat out said that black pilots he would be concerned or black women should, like all this anti-black rhetoric and constantly ostracizing the black community. And he believed in his ideology. And there's a lot of black men out there who there's this whole sentiment of like black people need to get their shit together. Black people are so emotional. Black people have black fatigue. There's a lot of people, and there's black people saying this shit, and white people
Yeah.
saying this shit, and it's
Yeah.
like, do you know
Yeah.
what the fuck you're talking about? Because there's a
No.
lot of white people that are crashing out for fucking Target having rainbows in their store. There's a lot, it's a lot of things that black people when they do, we can't have emotions or reactions to
That's the
real
whataboutism.
life situations.
That's how I end up living like that sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why that structure makes
that's
me
why
a little-
I try to ignore people like that because they get me in a space where I start to see them for what they are, and it's just like, oh, they make money off of just criticizing black people. They make money off of saying that, oh, all y'all care about is drugs and guns and killing each other, and that's not the fucking truth. They make and they spout this shit to a large audience where me and you and every black man that we probably know in real life don't fit that shit. I don't know one gangbanger. Go ahead.
I do.
Well,
I was
no.
about to say, well, I know I was about to say, I'm sorry.
No. Listen, maybe you do, but it's not like. But I'm not saying. Okay, it's not majority of the friends you have. What percentage are gangbangers? What percentage are only about drugs?
Yeah, it's not, and I won't even, it probably less.
And then they make it seem like it's a black.
fraction of a 1%.
Yeah, they make it seem like it's a black issue, like it's because black people are inherently that way. The truth of the matter is that there's an issue with white people and drugs too. Actually, a majority of crime is.
That's when it started. Yeah, that's when it started to matter.
Yeah,
that's when it started to matter when it was white people and the drugs. Actually, to be quite honest.
So listen, the first time I got ecstasy was from a white drug dealer, bro. Like, let's be real. Like but the thing about it when it comes to
white drug for sure.
For sure. But the thing about these guys is that they appeal to a white audience that wants to hear their biases confirmed from a black perspective, from a black man. And they were like, yeah, so the black person said it, so it's true. And that's why I hate Officer Tatum, because that's all he does,
This is why this was a really great thing for me to know without knowing, right? Because I didn't know.
Yeah, you just
I heard him for the first time.
Crazy.
But this is why I say this is great. This is good platforming for Stephen A. Because he was not able to get none of that shit off today. Even Stephen A. had to step in and say, fellas, nah, I don't really agree with what you're talking about now, Mr. Officer Tatum. You know what I'm saying? Like, even Stephen A. was like, God damn, I gotta step in with this. Because some of the shit you really can't let slide. But
think about it. A lot of America was racist.
Yeah.
A lot of Americans want black people to be what they show on TV. And we're just not. Granted, you might know a gangbanger. Listen, I don't really know one, bro. Like, who's still doing it? No, I don't, Do I know somebody that has gotten locked up? Yeah, maybe back in the day, you know. Um, but I also know white criminals as well. Like I've seen this happen, and it's like we
Yes.
act like it's a solely thing.
I didn't even get my
When
first pound from a black person. My first pound came from a white boy.
so there
Shout
you
out to
go. Yeah, you know, we all know. Like so, when it comes from what we got to understand is it's poverty. And if you're not tackling these issues at a root cause, then you're not really serious about it. If you're just saying it's just inherently black
Mhm.
people are an issue, black people need to, no, it's poverty, guys. People commit crimes in impoverished nations, this impoverished circumstances. It's been proven. We know what the issue is. If you go to trailer parks in Colorado, they're killing each other over there, and also selling each other drugs, and also the domestic violence is happening over there,
Absolutely.
and rapes are happening over there.
And
It,
the school system's
and the
poor,
school
and the
system's
kids
bad,
don't,
and the kids
the
are not
kids
getting.
don't look like me. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Yeah.
so if we don't be honest about these things, they have emotional reactions just like us. If we were to go out there and say, "All you crackers," like just like Chuck the Builder was doing, and we just go out there, "Oh, you fucking crackers, meth heads," they're gonna fuck you up too, just like a black person would. But when we do it, "Oh, you're chimping out. Oh, you're you're just being an emotional black person. You guys need to learn how to deal with a word called, the N word." That's what they do, and that's what this Tatum nigga tries to get off, and I just can't
He
stand
tried.
for it.
He tried to get. And to your point of the poverty, this is about 40 minutes into an hour
Mhm.
and some change interview. Gary was about tired. Yeah, he was about tired. So the diplomacy of how he was trying to get it off, because uh, I'm not even gonna play this part. I'm paraphrasing. You know, he would Officer Tatum was saying that black people need to get their stuff together, and Gary was like, "Hey man, I'm represented by a black council person. I have I have black constituents, but the city or the northern parish, it is not generally represented by people who live or look or been where I've been. So like when they go and if they come from if I live in Northern Parish and it looks a certain type of way, but you represent me and you stay in Southern Parish, when you get the funds, do you think the funds is coming to Northern Parish, or are you going to send them down to Southern Parish where you from, even though you represent Northern Parish, right? Like that is kind of the inherited illusion when it comes from, because when people say that our local stuff is not a federal problem, Gary Chambers, check that, says no. When the federal funding opens up and it is trickled down to the state then disseminates to where it needs to go. So inherently, it is the federal problem when the state is not doing right with the funds that you gave them to do for the constituents of the people
Yeah,
that they
it's a
serve.
complete
So
ignorance of the real issues, a complete mischaracterization of the root problem again. Because you can mischaracterize any type of information if you want and say, "Oh, let's not talk about those things on the side. I want to talk about this part right here,"
yep.
and that's what he does.
And that's what MAGA's doing right now in totality and I'm gonna play the clip, but that's where we're at with the propaganda talking about geopolitics. When nobody wants to talk about home, right? And Gary Chambers is like, how do I supposed to support an administration or a constitution or a government who decides and picks on people and tells them how they deserve to live and how they need to be governed and govern their people, and don't come back, it don't do nothing for home. You know what I'm saying? So let me see if I can get part of this conversation here. And okay, I think I want to start. Okay, let me see. Um, we got a commercial. We do not pay for
YouTube
YouTube
premium.
Premium. No, we do not.
Hell no.
Run through these little 30 seconds, nigga, for sure.
No, just like 70 McMahon.
Get
It's like it's like
a
Triple H.
VPN.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Going live with it.
Are you going? Are you gonna full screen it or not?
I'm not done. So
Yes.
I would rather someone who has a same lived experience, who cares about some of the same things. That's what white people are asking for every day. Why, when black people ask for it, is it somehow wrong?
How do you think? Where do you see white people asking for stuff like that?
They don't have to say white. They say stuff like people with the same moral fabric as us, people who have the same cultural beliefs as us.
The audience
the
can
shit
hear
you were
it.
saying 5 minutes ago.
Okay.
All right, so let me rewind. I'm gonna rewind it because I was talking over it. All right, here we go.
$1 million. I asked them, do the curtains here cost less than the curtains that you put on the building on the other side of town, or you just shorten the black kids over here? So when you talk about some of these things, I'm saying that black...
Shit, I just have him say it in there. Fuck it, I was talking over it. I was right there. Shit.
From the time Obama was in office, first term. Just wanted to say that. Give you the floor.
So first thing I want to say, brought up tax revenue from the feds. Louisiana gets more from the federal government than we send to the federal government in resources. My state actually needs the federal resources in order to meet the needs of the American people. You can ask Jeff Landry yourself, if the feds cut that federal water off, if he can meet the needs of the people of Louisiana, he's going to tell you no. When the SNAP stuff was cut up, the reason Jeff Landry was in such a tizzy is because all of the grocery store owners are reliant on the ability of those SNAP customers so that they can pay their grocery bills as a grocery owner. So Donnie Rouse, who owns Rouse's Grocery Store, he was concerned about whether or not the SNAP benefits got paid too, because if the people who get SNAP benefits can't pay their SNAP benefits, don't get their SNAP benefits, they're not in the grocery store spending their money with Donnie Rouse. Okay, so when the legislators in the Republican legislature here were concerned about that Fed money, they weren't concerned about their poor white working class workers. I'm not done. They weren't concerned about their poor working class white voters. They were concerned about their business owners who were going to not be able to meet their margins. Second part, when you talk about the money, that's our money. When black people start talking about an investment from the government, that is our tax dollars that we have paid to the government. And everybody gets to ask for their tax dollars to come back to their community, but black people. When black people, you just said we want the government to do it. No, I want the government to be true to what it said on paper. If you're going to take care of the damn roads and bridges, take care of the roads and the bridges in my community too. If you're going to take care of the parks, take care of the parks in my community. In my community, around the corner from me is Glen Oaks High School. It flooded in 2016. When it was repaired, they spent $16 million to repair it. When Baton Rouge High was built, they spent $64 million. When the school that my daughter goes to was built, they spent $60 million. When they built the Struma High School in the black neighborhood, they spent $20 million. I asked them, do the curtains here cost less than the curtains that you put on the building on the other side of town, or you just shorten the black kids over here? So when you talk about some of these things, I'm saying that black people who go to work every day, like my mom and daddy, who live in the same neighborhood I do across the street from me, who've been paying taxes in this community for 30 years, but every time they wake up, there's another resource leaving their community. And it's not at the hands of the black people that they voted for, it's at the hands of the white people who continue to deny the access to the black people because of race. A thing that you continue to deny is a fact.
Is your city council member black that represents your district?
Yes. My city council is majority white, Republican.
No, but is your representative black?
What part are you missing?
Is the person representing your community?
See, this is where the game
He's at a disadvantage, Officer Tatum, because he's operating in a silo. He's by himself. He's outnumbered. That's what Gary's saying.
Majority black city.
To me, this is the problem.
This is the lie. No, I'm not this is the problem. Because this is where conservatives are lying every day.
No, you just make everything about race.
Black city. I live in a majority black city. I have a community where we have never had black people as the majority on the city council because of gerrymandering, and your black ass is sitting here telling me that it doesn't matter.
Now you're assuming that white people are all racist and evil.
I never said that.
So white person can't represent your community because they're white?
See, now you're lying. This is another thing.
I'm asking you.
Tactic. This is a tactic.
No, it's no tactic. It's no tactic. Just talking. He's just talking. Hey, guys. Hold on, let me just say, ain't nobody getting cut off, y'all. One at a time. Ain't nobody getting cut off. I'm not editing any of this out. I understand that. You don't get the floor is yours. I'm just letting you know you ain't getting cut off. This is not getting edited. I'm letting y'all speak.
Gary,
Go ahead,
this
officer.
is what I would respect what Gary's saying if he said, we have not had proper representation, meaning people have not represented us properly, not because of the color of their skin. You're drawing representation properly being met with because they ain't never let a black person do it.
Now, with that point, like when you tell me about all white people, go ahead.
What point are you talking about? Because you're on delay. Because
I'm on delay.
Because I was listening to it through our YouTube. So and it's a delay.
Okay.
So I heard in that point, and then I heard in that point, and I didn't hear what they said. But what point were you talking to?
Officer Tatum, when he was saying you inherently think that all white people can't represent you because they're white, and Gary's like, I didn't say that. Dude, like he was like, I'm talking about the white people that represent me now, right? Exactly. But I can understand where Officer Tatum's kind of asking, because when I'm kind of like Gary,
he said
sometimes
nothing about white people being evil. But you can not be evil.
Previously in the conversation, previously we were talking about white. Previously in the conversation, Gary did one of my moves where we're just speaking and we kind of hit the all white people are racist, or like we hit one of those. And when you do that, that is when somebody can pick you apart.
Yeah.
That is when you can
do
get
the
knocked off
thing.
your pivot.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So no, but that's why we have to. That's why it's so good. That's why we have to pick it apart, because we have to summarize, coalesce, especially when you say a general statement, what you actually mean. Because there are black people who think all white people are evil, and then there are black people who will say that and like, no, okay, I didn't really mean that way, but I think that they're not taking care of my community in the best way because they don't have to, and that's there's a distinction between those two things. Yeah.
Will now this is my thing now, since we're talking about humans, right? Can and do white people feel some type of way about hearing that about them? And is it upon them to say, if you don't see what I'm doing and I ain't like them, then fuck it? Or is it on them to be like, I'll really boom my power and make sure? Or is it on them to be like, hey man, I'm really putting in the effort? And that's a small percentage of people that's going to do that.
Here's the thing. I think that there's a combination of willful ignorance and a combination of actively not caring about black people that white people do. And I think that it's on us to be a Gary Chambers and fight for what we deserve and question, hey, why is a white school getting $60 million and a black school getting 20? Like, those things are our duty, and that's where our information and our stuff comes into play, because we get to then ask the question and see what they say. And then we get to see in real time, are you on our side, and are you going to see us as human or not? Are you going to really give us a really valid reason of, okay, why things happen, and the currents cost less here than go to school? Because at the end of the day, we shouldn't live in a country where we are intentionally treating one community less than another community if we can prevent that, and that's the key. When a budget goes to the state and we're like, all right, yeah, typically that area is, the ghetto, so we're going to give them less just because that school needs a new football field. That's where it gets weird. That's where it gets really intentionally and insidious, because you are saying your white luxury is more important than black basic needs.
So I love you, brother. That's why I'm so angry, because that's where I come from. Again, if you go back to Hoover, Alabama, they had a TV show. The Hoover High School on MTV. They played McNeese. That's when I first saw Tim Tebow and all that, my nigga. Hoover High is a suburban area outside of Birmingham. That is an area you do not take your black ass unless you are absolutely clean. I mean, you driving your daddy car and no tents. You got somewhere to go. You got somewhere to be. You got some.
Okay.
Hoover is that because that money, those tickets, that it is pumping. That, and so when I'm talking about that, so when he's talking about that school getting upgrade and getting a new football field and getting millions of dollars, and I'm telling you, my school, West End, my nigga, bro. My wife's therapist is not even from Birmingham. She's from Montgomery, which is about 2.5 hours away from Birmingham. When I introduced myself and I said, I'm from Alabama, she said, oh, what part? I said, Birmingham. She said, oh, what part? I said, West End. She said, ooh. Bitch, you don't know me. But she know me. Like, she knows the makeup of me. And with that being said, that's a battle, a struggle, an identity that it literally makes you insecure because you know your books ain't up to date. You know your school is not renovated up to date. You know that the like you said, the state funding is not coming to Jefferson County. And if it is, the damn sure ain't coming to your school. They gonna put it elsewhere, wherever in Jefferson County, because you are the bottom of this side of the city. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So
I just did some research.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I just asked, so when states get federal funding, why do they continue to give wealthy schools more money? It says federal funds account for a small fraction of overall K-12 budgets. States continue to give wealthy schools more money primarily because of local property tax reliance, combined with state funding formulas that often reward districts with higher property values or wealthier student populations. Most public school funding relies on local property taxes. So the people are paying the school, you know? The districts in affluent neighborhoods with high home values generate significantly more local tax revenue than low-income districts, allowing them to spend far more per student regardless of what the state or federal government contributes. State allocation fund, while federal funds like Title I are specifically targeted to support low income and special needs students, they only make up about 8% of school budgets. To make up the difference, states distribute their own revenues. Many states' formulas are designed to match local contributions or distribute funds based on attendance, which inadvertently advantages wealthier districts that can afford better facilities, advanced programs, and higher teacher salaries. And then some states and federal funding is tied to competitive grants or require matching funds from the local district. Wealthier districts are better equipped to employ grant writers, provide matching funds, or navigate complex state bureaucracies, allowing them to secure a disproportionate amount of supplementary funding. So when I said, is this a systemic issue? It says, yes, school funding disparities are widely recognized by economists, sociologists, and policymakers as a classic example of systemic issue. The unequal distribution of funds is not caused by individual bad actors or random mistakes. Instead, it is the predictable, baked-in result of how the entire American education system is structured. Why this system perpetuates inequality, boundaries, and segregation. District borders were historically drawn around racial and economically segregated neighborhoods. Because school funding is tied to these exact geographic borders through property taxes, historical housing discrimination like redlining is structurally preserved in modern school budgets. The wealth produce more wealth. Wealthy districts use their high property taxes revenues to build state-of-the-art facilities and offer high salaries. This attracts top-tier teachers and affluent families, which drives property values even higher, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of structural advantage. Political lobbying power. Affluent communities possess time, legal resources, and political influence to actively lobby state legislators. they successfully protect their local tax revenues from being redistributed to poorer neighboring districts. And in legal frameworks, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in 1973 in San Antonio Independent School District versus Rodriguez that the education is not a fundamental right guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution. This landmark decision cemented the system by ruling that the property tax-based funding disparities do not violate federal law, leaving equity decisions entirely up to the fractured state courts. Okay. So what's a systemic?
So yeah, to tie into everything, when you said it said America system, right? When you read that, and then another two words that stuck out to me was it was racially driven and economically driven.
Exactly.
So what do we just talk about the Civil War? It was racially driven and economically driven.
It's the same conversation.
So same conversation. So the history of America of, again, sectioning off people or sectioning off ideologies, or because based on how much money it can generate, right? That has, we just read it, that is trickled down to the school system. It's trickled down to the school system of, like I'm saying, you're right. It's really not a federal problem. But again, when I open up my books and I give it to the state, and the state looks at it and say, "All right, everybody, come get your piece. Come get your piece." Everybody has the ability to compound their piece with some interest, right? Depending on if they're in a decent, good, a better, neighborhood, considering what we're talking about. When you leave the poor to be poor, whether that's the white trailer park or the slums of the black people, what you are now doing is then recycling the ideology of free labor. Because we're just saying that if this poor neighborhood does not generate any money, we don't have to give that neighborhood any money.
We're matching it. Oh, so you only get the 20,000 match or the 10,000 match that you guys created,
which allows people to come in and gentrify and then buy up real estate or buy up land, or then take away the local business or the local economy that can influence at least a little bit of subsidized money that comes that way. So you then now turn what used to be what you know to be a bad neighborhood into, oh, that's not a Piggly Wiggly no more. That's a Winn-Dixie.
Yeah, like, oh my God,
changed the name from that? Yeah,
and it's changed in the past year. You haven't been back here? Oh man, you've been gone for 5 years. It's gotten, that's what we're trying to do. But it does.
But none of that money goes back to
exactly.
They pushed everybody out.
It goes back to the billionaire conversation of like you hoarding money or hoarding wealth. It's the same thing with the education system, hoarding money, hoarding wealth, and then you reinforcing the reason why you're doing it, because we pay more money, we create more money, we have to pay to the schools that so our kids have a better soccer or uniforms. Like it makes sense because you're living in a bubble. So you are like, why do I gotta give the money for my kids' soccer team uniform to the hood for what? I
don't play soccer.
I seen it. They don't play soccer over there. They don't got a team. I pay my property tax. I pay my school tax, and I want it to go to my kids. So
now let's extrapolate this to college sports too, right? That's how these you got some college football teams that can literally probably break away from their universities because my money funds the women's swim team. The revenue that I generate as the football team, I don't want to give that to I don't want to give that to the remote. Oh, I'm sorry, baby. Throw my lighter back. Shit, I thought my wife needed a lighter. I was like, what you need a lighter for? Shit, I was about to leave the podcast, nigga. We was about to get busy. But she needed a remote. Like, that nigga don't smoke. She had a stressful day. Let me go for her.
Give her a massage when you get back.
Oh, me.
Light one up. But no, yeah.
So yeah, they don't. It's
like, why would just our money go into there? And we have to change the philosophy on all the fronts of, and this is why they don't like socialism, but that's how you raise all shifts. If you don't want crime, why don't you just fucking fix the crime? It costs investment. Then you have great black people that are not complaining and killing each other. How about that? You know, then you have great white people who are not complaining and killing each other. How about that? How about we redistribute the wealth so we have this crime? We know the answers. You know, so we have educated. We can compete with China in education because we're investing in it. You know what?
Yo, we just do this after we came with no script today. We had nothing. But this springboard me, and we'll probably get out of here with identity politics.
Before you do that, I want to just hit you with this. To permanently rectify school funding inequities, reformers focus on structural overhauls that detach school budgets from local neighborhood wealth. We got to detach the two. One of the solutions is what they call the Michigan model, and that's to shift state level funding. States can eliminate local property taxes as the primary source of school funding by collecting education taxes at the state level via statewide sales, income, or property taxes, and distributing them evenly per pupil. The geographic wealth of a neighborhood no longer dictates the school's budget. 2, implement true weighted student formulas. States can adopt funding models that allocate money based on student need rather than district property values. Under this system, the state provides a base funding amount for every student, plus mandatory extra weights for students who come from low-income families, are English language learners, and require special education services. So we're now lifting the bottom, and saying, hey, we're equally funding all these schools. The federal government says, hey, we're equally funding all these schools, and we're going to give a little bit more for people who have low income, a little bit more for people who are learning English, a little bit more for people who are special education services. And then the third, redraw district boundaries, consolidating small fragmented schools into larger countywide or regional districts, blends the rich and poorest together. This forces a single shared tax base to fund all schools within that region equally, ending a practice of wealthy neighborhoods isolating their tax dollars. While the U.S. Constitution does not guarantee equal education, state citizens can pass ballot measures to amend their state constitutions, adding explicit language that guarantees a high-quality, equitable education, gives civil rights groups the legal backing to permanently strike down unfair funding system in court. And 5, increase the target federal funding. Congress should dramatically increase federal funding to education spending, currently at just 8%, but condition those funds on state compliance. To receive federal dollars, the states would legally be required to prove they distribute their own state and local funds equitably. If you want to see how these solutions, they're going to ask me. Michigan and Vermont have kind of like adopted some of this, but go ahead.
No, what I wanted, this will probably be the thumbnail. Do you identify with your identity politics, which we try to strip away from? Would you consider yourself a socialist?
I consider myself a democratic. I hate labels, first and foremost. I consider myself a humanist. I always tell you, a humanist, and that comes from a place. So that triples to my politics, because my goal is now to provide all humans with a better life. Now if you're making millions and millions of dollars, and somebody in your same, and across the railroad tracks is making $1,000 a month, you got to slow down. To me, not like you got to slow down, but like we got to help these people, because I don't want you complaining about their future kids being crime ridden. So let's stop. Let's not stop your wealth, but we have to then level the playing field so that the whole community is better. because then you're not complaining about the people across the railroad. Then
How
they're
do we
good
do
too.
that?
Well, I just listed all those reasons, but I would say
No, I mean for the wealth. No, I mean that's the wealth between for school. I'm saying like for what you would implement those ways within individual. Well, I guess state. Well, like I'm just trying. When someone speaks of capping your wealth or redistributing your wealth, you know, people will fight back, you know, with that. So I'm just trying to see how, you know, I think we talked about it. Well, Peter Thiel was worth what, $28 million, 28 billion. He had to pay what was a 5% tax. That would have been like 1.4, 1.5 billion, and he's still walking away with 26.5 or something like that. Like, I don't think you should run from that. If that falls under socialism, then I rock with that. You know what I'm saying? Because I ain't cap you. You just paying a tax to that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so I don't know what to. Okay, so you asked me what do I identify as politically, right?
Yeah. With the ideology that you have.
Ideologies have. So I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I'm learning as I go along because my thoughts and processes continue to evolve. But I'm looking at what people deem as what I just expressed as like, hey, I'm a humanist first who believes that I believe in raising the floor of a country, a community, a town, a state, whatever it may be, then continually helping out the most wealthy. That's a philosophy I have. And that means having people access to health care, access to child care, access to good paying jobs, lowering crime through, you know, the ways that we know logically and economically and scientifically. Sociology tells you that funding areas impoverished can lower crime rates by getting freaking just something as simple as getting street lights, you know, in a street could change the crime rate completely. And we've
Yeah, I
seen
got
that
to see what
before.
Baltimore is doing. Baltimore flipped. Baltimore flipped this city on its head, boy. Like their mayor and the initiative that the youth initiative program that they have over there. The lowest
Shout out to
crime,
them.
like
And
motherfucking
we know what it
decade.
used to be because so
Oh,
we know the answer, so we know what works. We can't just sit here
yeah.
and just point a finger. Oh my God, black people they're bad. Like stop doing that, guys. Like stop. There's solutions to these issues. You know, I hear even black people say, man, black people need to stop doing this and stop doing that. Stop judging people who you've never lived their experience. If I came to the hood and started pointing my fingers at people when I didn't live through that, that makes me just a fucking asshole, bro, for
Yeah.
real. Like, you know, so what I put in is that what I believe, and it said that I believe in social democracy, and said this is the most direct match to my philosophy. Social democrats believe in capitalist market economy, but insist that the government must heavily regulate it to ensure a strong social safety net. I always talk about regulation. The goal is to raise the floor through you.
Talk about the government too. We can't trust them niggas.
Yeah.
So government and regulation is tough.
hmm the goal is to raise the floor through universal health care, free education, a robust public infrastructure funded by progressive taxation. The view on the wealth. It allows for a ceiling of private wealth and corporate enterprise, but taxes the top to ensure nobody falls below a dignified floor. That's all I'm trying to say. That's all I want. So I might have learned something today about myself. I'm identifying as a social democrat. Now, democratic socialism is also on this list, and maybe I'm going to read it just so we can talk about it. But it says if you believe that truly raising the floor requires restructuring the economy so that workers, rather than private corporations, own the means of production, you might then lean toward democratic socialism to guarantee a decent life as a fundamental right by removing essential. The goal is to guarantee us a decent life by a fundamental right by removing essential human needs like housing and healthcare from profit-driven market. It places a much heavier emphasis on actively lowering or capping the wealth ceiling to prevent extreme economic inequality from corrupting democracy. That's Zoran Mamdani, and I I fuck with him. I fuck with that. And then there's a couple of other things here too. It says left libertarianism. I'm not sure if I'm that, but it says if you value individual liberty and free markets, but believe the natural resources belong to everyone equally, this framework fits. The goal that
Okay.
many left libertarians advocate for universal basic income or a citizens divided fund funded by taxes on land values or pollution. Funded by taxes on land values or pollution. The view on wealth. It creates a definitive financial floor for every human being without relying on a massive state bureaucracy to manage individual industries. I'm not that, but I mean, I see where people can come from with that. And then there's a philosophical framework called Rawlsian liberalism. Rawlsian liberalism. While not a political party, your view perfectly mirrors the political philosophy of John Rawls, specifically his difference principle. Rawls argued that economic inequalities are only permissible if they work to maximize benefit from the least advantaged members of society. In short, a higher ceiling is only justified if it actually pulls up the floor. If you would like to explore the views, it asks me if I want to explore it further. But yeah, Rawlsian liberalism fits me, but that's more like a philosophical framework. But I'm between a social democracy. I'm a social democrat or a democratic socialist. So yeah.
No idea what I was, or
And
who I was, could say. You know what I mean?
I'm
What'd you
sorry.
say?
I'm sorry. What'd you say?
No, I said I have no idea, like, who I
Because
am,
but
where
that's
I
why
am.
it's such a
But
good
yeah,
because that's why I love this pod because we get to explore this, and I'm learning by myself. I want you to learn by yourself in the process as well. But here's what I want even the audience to do: look in your heart and spirit and think to yourself, what is the best way for society to continually improve and work that doesn't harm people and doesn't exploit people? That's
mm,
if you don't want people to be harmed and exploited. Now, if you genuinely want people to be harmed and exploited, add that to your definition and see what it turns out to be. Because some people might be complete, authoritarians, or complete anarchists, But that's a real thing because I'm tired of the labels. Or if you're gonna give somebody a label, at least know what you are. Democrat, two choices, Democrat, Republican. Majority of us don't fit in these two boxes. Like I'm talking about
yeah,
probably no one. As of
yeah.
what it is today, no one really fits in just those two boxes. What because there's they fight within each other. So what I did just now is I said I'm a humanist to you first, and I said that I believe in raising the floor of society. So whatever you believe in, Chris, you define it one day and throw it into a chat GPT or a Claude and ask it because you have to know who you are though. First you got to know what you believe in. First you got to have a vision for what a good society is. And I have a little bit of an idea of what I believe it is. Not that I'm right, but I have a little bit of an idea of what if I was God or whatever, or the president or whatever, what I would fight for to create for the future, and the reasons why I want to do that. I believe in helping out the lowest of the lowest, the homeless, the children who are can't get school lunch, the people who are working three jobs and got nobody to watch their kids, so they got to freaking put them at the hey, let's get the oldest to watch all the youngest, and they're only like 10 years old. Like those people, I want to serve them so that they have a better life. People who are sick and can't pay for health care. If we can do that in the richest country in the world, then a lot of our problems of pointing the finger at people and saying, oh, you're a racist, or you're, not picking yourself up by your bootstraps, and oh, I hate you because you're MAGA. I hate you because you're liberal. I hate you because you're gay. I hate you because you're straight. I hate you because of whatever label you got. All of that noise goes away because we're now all focused on making everybody's life better. Who cares? I don't care if you live in fucking Idaho and are on a farm. I don't care if you're in Brooklyn, you know, you know, I, you can all live a better life because I have a vision of not ignoring anybody's sovereignty. But that's for me. I want people to look into their hearts and explore outside of the Democratic, outside of being a Democrat or being a Republican. Look into your heart of what you think a good society looks like and explore that within yourselves, put it in an AI chatbot, and see what it tells you about yourself and what it may tell you about your political ideology that's outside of what they tell you on TV and social media.
And when AI use the good ones, so you got to research and ask AI itself, hey, are you owned by any bad people that do bad things?
Facts.
Oh man, you ended the show perfect, man. It's nothing else to. I know I screamed yesterday, this is me, this is me. He was like, no, I know who you are. I know who you are. You coming in today really puts a bow and a pin on this is cheating. You know what I'm saying? And this was a great revelation because I do believe that as we continue to grow with this podcast, understanding who we are will then, and again, iron sharpens iron. So for you to do what you did, because you said, I know what I have an idea, right? For me, I have to sit with that,
Yeah.
right? For me, I have to really identify because we've already said that when we put it in the AI chat, they say, well, of course, will Chris press the red button? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? So like for that to be within me, like am I someone who just want to be standoffish and gain enough wealth to be able to live off of, and then I have to figure out what that is because obtainability of what that could be has never been something eh, to dream,
The
right?
imagination. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like to be able to like sit down and be like, if I had the opportunity, like sometimes to sit down and be like, man, I just need to pay the bills for a
Yeah.
couple
And
weeks.
that's where they
You know,
keep
you
you
know,
at. They keep you
yeah.
there because you're stuck in the system. So they just keep you in this state of consciousness that I just need to be in the system. But what if everybody challenged themselves that say, if you had a magic wand, what would the world look like today? If you write that down in your journal, what is that? And then define it into a ethos, then you'll know more about yourself and what you stand for. That's what I wanted to make Agora for, is to really get people to challenge their preconceived notions, challenge what they believe politically, and to define themselves. Because you might take a personality test or a Myers-Briggs test and be like, man, I have more in common with that transgender black kid than I have with any of these country bumpkin MAGA fucks. But I've been walking around with them forever because that's what I thought I was. That's what I thought I really standed for. But I don't. You know, that's that's what people are in right now. And same thing for black people. There's a lot of black people that are they really honed in on like what they believe. Some of them are way more conservative. Some of them are way more for like, yeah, man, maybe we should be more segregated. Some of them are way more for, who cares what the federal government, the state should control it. Some of them are way more, well, yeah, if your school is low funded because you're putting money into it from the community, so be it. Some of them believe that shit. So I'm not saying that you're wrong. I just want you to know what you are, so that we can have an honest talk as a country. Know where you stand, and don't just sit here and just say, I believe in what everything Trump says, or I believe in everything that Kamala or Biden or Obama or Bernie, whoever you think is person that you're believing in, what do you believe in? If you were in control and running for your campaign, what would you believe in? Like me and Zoran, we believe in like 80-90% of things, but I would have done things differently at certain things, and that's fine. That's okay. But we're all gonna have differences. But then we can have an honest conversation rather than this yelling and screaming match we're constantly having, like we saw on Stephen A. Smith's show, because we're not hearing each other. Because I don't even think, I don't think that you're seeing the person, you're seeing the issue, and you're characterizing them and putting them in a box before you get to even see why they're saying what they're saying and where they're coming from and their philosophy.
Everything is programming, and we have to be able to identify when it is to the manufacturing of phones basically changed because SD cards are no longer valuable, but that was something that was so valuable. You was able to, when you're full of information, right, you can just pop. And I think right now with the amount of information that we can't able to disseminate, the way that they pump us with stuff, we're not able to compartmentalize, and we're programmed different. Right,
Yeah.
right now we're programmed to live in the cloud, store things in the cloud. We'll get back to this later. We'll get back to this later. All these different tabs on our computer. Like, we're not able to just sit and digest and internalize and then be able to disseminate from that. And again, it comes from, do you want to? You know what I'm saying? Realistically, our last show we did, we said it's the blueprint of the fine print. And I always got some shit, nigga. I literally have this, the fine print of self-publishing, right? Because there is wealth in the knowledge, and you only are able to really understand that when you've been starved from it, right? When you are structured to understand or been force fed what was available to you. So when you have the availability to think outside the box, when you have the availability to go to the library and check out books, that when you have the ability to counteract some of the things that counter program, really, when you have the ability to counter program some of the things that you have been institutionalized with, because that is the making of you, the changing of you can feel, it can feel restricting, it can feel
Abrasive sometimes, it could
yes,
feel
yes,
uncomfortable, like
yeah,
me and you had an uncomfortable conversation yesterday sporadically, and that led to today's show, which I think is a really good show, that comes from the heart, and like you said, like I want to just give you credit as a brother to challenge yourself to counter program yourself. Just challenge yourself to think outside the box, because it doesn't come with an intentionality about it. Like, you have to be intentional about seeing outside the box and taking off those shades, and trying to peek through a vision, a dream that may. Oh man, I was before I went to bed last night. I was real. I missed the whole conversation. We can talk about it tomorrow because I'm going down a whole different rabbit hole. But basically, there's a theory that this experience called life is a hologram, and and
oh, tune in
and
tomorrow, people.
tune in tomorrow. But we are creating it as we go along with our consciousness and our imagination and our current thoughts. So as we continue to think the same things, we are creating more of that and becoming more of that as the world comes into creation. So when I create, I'm creating more justice by even thinking that there could be more justice. But when you create more division, when you think that it's not possible and there's always going to be division, then you're creating more of that almost. It's a more spiritual, ethereal kind of conversation. But we'll talk more about that tomorrow, guys. In the meantime, counter program yourselves. All is love. We'll see y'all tomorrow.
That's so great tomorrow, bro.
We're here where everything is. We are the zeitgeist. We are the culture. Peace out. Keep loving your hearts and spirits, because Lord knows everybody needs it. The world needs it. Peace.
Peace.
If you made it this far, you are a real one. Thank you. So please like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more daily content from your boys from Everything Is.